Alright, now it looks like it's working. Damn it, what's going on with Twitch today? It's not my connection. My bitrate is perfect. What's going on? Yeah, looks like it's working for me right now. Well, let's take this chance. No, in case you don't know, ladies and gentlemen, I've been trying to connect to Twitch. I have already hit the start stream button on over at Streamlabs here, but I couldn't see my own stream. I couldn't see it, and it didn't connect for. I tried kind of like 5, 7 times, but well, looks like it's working. Well, looks like they have a bit of a problem with their backend servers. That's for sure. But well, looks like it's working. Here, I was about to resign and record the analysis offline or something like that. But no, looks like it worked after half an hour. I had to wait 30 minutes for this to connect. Well, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Looks like it's working right now. Let me connect the joystick. Here, we'll leave this here. Then let me reopen this because it was not working. It wasn't working. Oh, well, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, they certainly have a problem with their backend server. It wasn't my connection. And I've watched other streams and something similar seems to be happening. But well, looks like at least ours connected right now. Alright, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Fortunately, I managed to start the stream even when Twitch was having issues. But well, let's see if the connection remains stable, because today we have to do something pretty important. So, what do we have for today? The final analysis of The Lord of the Rings War in the North. But before we proceed to that, we will do both the Osgiliath and the Lorien challenge missions on heroic difficulty. Remember, we finished the game on the normal difficulty. Sadly, I couldn't finish all of the side quests because the game kind of like stopped everything once I beat the final boss, and it automatically sent me to start a new game. It pretty much forced me to start a new game on heroic difficulty. And I couldn't finish the for example, the side quest of the Chronicler with Bilbo, but well. Maybe I can finish it now because I started a new game and I've already made my way here. I'll show you as we begin the stream because I've already wasted half an hour trying to connect it because of Twitch's terrible situation. I mean, they have a problem with their backend servers today or something like that. But well, that's what we're gonna do today. We'll do both of the challenge missions on heroic difficulty, and then we'll get to the final analysis. Sorry, by the way, that precisely today that I have to do the final analysis, my throat it's a bit out of commission. It's out of commission. It's not my usual voice. Clearly, the winter has arrived, and it has affected me, as you can see. But well, we'll manage and we'll do the final analysis today. It's just that my voice will be a bit weaker. That's it. That doesn't matter. I bet you can hear me. The microphone is pretty loud in comparison to game sounds and soundtracks, so yeah. Well, here, as you can see, I changed my armor. It has been a huge progress. Here, I found a bug, which is that, I don't know if you... Well, no, now it's not happening, but at some point in my gameplay, Faren's eyes became kind of like blue instead of brown. And I noticed it, but it's not happening right now, so great. As you can see, my armor is all new. I revamped the skill tree, and as you can see now, I can automatically revive my allies here, the talents that I couldn't pick when I beat the final boss. Here I also picked this one, and basically my war cry is much more powerful. I have more armor here. Here you can see my stats. And I made it. I made it. Let's get out of here. I've already repaired my gear. So yeah, we are ready. Well, let's get to something that we were analyzing right before we finish the game. This will be the last stream of this game. Then we'll go, but then we will continue with the preservation series, and I have another game that I want to showcase. As you can see, this is heroic difficulty. I completed all of what you saw on normal difficulty. I completed it again on heroic difficulty. I just had to finish Mirkwood, and then the defense of Mount of Nordinbad here, the defense of Nordinbad, and then, as you could all see last week, finish the game once again. But if I do that, the game will automatically default. It will once again force me to start again, but instead of on heroic difficulty, it will be on legendary difficulty. The game has basically 3 difficulties besides easy, that no one should play the game on easy. There's no real reason to play it on easy. The game on normal is pretty easy to finish on normal, so there's no point in selecting easy difficulty. It's pretty simple to be to complete it on normal difficulty. This is heroic. It's kind of like after normal difficulty. But then, if I do this, if I finish Mirkwood and Nordinbad and Carnadun and Carndoom, it will once again force me to finish the game all over again on legendary difficulty. So instead of doing that, because we will be repeating everything just like I had to make my way through all of these all over again, but it was much faster because I found out how to run. Yes, in the game you can run, but most people won't even realize it. But yeah, pretty much. There we go. Let me remove the description. What are we gonna do today? We are going to do the Lorien challenge mission and the Osgiliath challenge mission. These 2 exclusive maps were released. I investigated this topic. They were, just so you know, because you won't find them on any physical edition or anything, or 99% of them. This mission was released for a specific version of the Xbox 360. This one, the Osgiliath challenge mission. And the Lorien challenge mission was released for another exclusive version. They are not even DLCs. They are kind of like extra content that was only present in this content was only present on specific versions of the game, specific releases. So they are not updates. They are not DLC. They are kind of like, it's something similar to what happened with, for example, Need for Speed Undercover on the Xbox 360 and the PS3, that the PC version didn't have any of the content, not even paying for it, not even with DLCs. They were kind of like exclusive, let's say exclusive DLCs, but they aren't DLCs because you didn't pay for them. They were kind of like installed on disc, apparently. Kind of like you bought the Xbox 360 version, it was a special edition or something like that, and this was just like special editions nowadays have, I don't know, toys or those things. Well, these ones had special challenge missions, apparently, according to what I read over at Wikipedia, is what I saw. Now, that leaves us with our theory. I thought, and I was wrong, that since I'm playing an updated version of the game, I could access extra dungeons, that they updated the game, and that all of these dots on the map, that all of these extra dots on the map that you normally cannot access, I thought they were extra dungeons because of the fact that this version is updated. But look at this. Look at this. I didn't pay attention. I was wrong. See that it says point of interest? Well, that means that... See that there's a difference, that the trouble point is kind of like... It has a different pattern. It has kind of like that cross pattern instead of a perfect square. Well, that means that it's just to do this, to read the story. What a huge disappointment. You can just read the story of all of the locations of Middle Earth, here, even this one over here. And the ones that you can access are those. See, for example, this one. This is why I left this one unchecked. For example, this one, you can see it's a square. It's a point of interest. It's a point of interest. Eventually, when you play through the game, as you can see, they open. And you can access them, for example, this one. And you could see that we played Grandeur, and we could access this one. I hoped that once I go to heroic difficulty or something, these would all unlock. But it's not the case. Sadly, it's not the case, at least so far. If they are kind of like secret locations, once you play legendary difficulty, I guess that once I play the game for a third time, I will update it with a comment over at YouTube. If you're watching this as a YouTube poll, but I don't think so, because I've been unable to find any kind of information about it. So yeah, I don't think you can access them. I don't think so. So yeah, pretty much the dungeons are these, the ones that you saw, the ones that I showcased. We covered everything, so we just need to do the challenge missions. Now, what does all of this mean? As you know, replayability is an important aspect of when I analyze a game, that I take into account when I analyze a game. So yes, pretty much. The game is way too short. It's a similar case to Vanquish. Pretty similar to Vanquish. Pretty good gameplay mechanics, an interesting game, amazing in terms of the execution and everything, but either they ran out of development time, or they simply didn't want to, or they couldn't make the game longer, but the game is extremely short. I initially thought these were all dungeons, and we only had 2 challenge missions. As I've said, and I only had them because I took the time to get the Steam version back in the day, because I knew there was some extra content, but I never imagined that it wasn't even a DLC that you could get anywhere, that you couldn't get in normal editions of the game. So yeah, well, this will be a pretty exclusive showcase. I haven't found any footage online of this, of the Osgiliath and the Lorien challenge missions. They are not updates, as I've said. They are kind of like, they were only inserted, they were only developed, they were only put into specific versions of the game when they released it. I don't know. So yeah, pretty much. It wasn't an update, it wasn't a DLC, and we'll do it, and then we'll get to the final analysis today. Right, so... And then on Thursday, we'll continue with the Preservation series. Another thing, see that it says level 4 to 16. Right, if you were paying attention, I'm already level 29. 29. About to reach level 30. And see that this one says 11 to 22. Well, that's because the descriptions, they didn't take the time to update the descriptions. I read this. even if you played it on heroic difficulty. Be careful with those levels because they can be misleading. I've read people that said that who said that basically you need to be several levels above these that they are saying here. But this is for normal difficulty. On heroic difficulty, it will scale. So we are in for a pretty challenging fight, I believe. We'll see. We'll see. Also, another thing that I want to analyze. I want to see if these are kind of like waves. It's like kind of like horde mode. Now, the question is, are the waves infinite or not? Or are they kind of like 20 rounds or something like that? Because that will play a huge role in terms of the replayability of the game. Because remember, the game has 3 difficulties. You have to finish the game, you have to complete the game 3 times to access legendary difficulty and those things. And while that's a legitimate mechanic, though it's not the one I like the most, repeating the game on several difficulties. But well, it's the style of Diablo, for example, of Hellgate London, I don't know. Of isometric action RPGs in general, of the Diablos, of the school of Diablo, let's say, of isometric action RPG games. But if on top of those 3 difficulties you have an endless challenge, well, that would be like a horde mode in Gears of War, so it will add a bit more of replayability to the game. But yeah, pretty much. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. I want to find out if the waves are endless or not. I want to see if this is pretty much. I've been unable to find any content online of the challenge mission. New quest, Osgiliath challenge. Well, here you can see, but I don't know. Recommended for characters 4 to 16. Ignore that. Ignore that. Ignore that. Even on normal difficulty, you are meant to be. Even on normal difficulty, you are meant to be several levels above the recommended level. As you can see, I'm almost level 30. We'll probably hit level 30 in a couple of minutes. As you can see, I changed my skill tree, I changed my playstyle. I've been playing on heroic difficulty, so yeah, pretty much. As I've said, ignore the 4 to 16 recommended level because even on normal difficulty, I've read people who said over at Game Frequently Asked Questions, FAQ, they said that 10 years ago when the game was released that they tried doing this on normal difficulty and they said no. You are meant to be much higher than level 16 would be for this one, or 22 for the Lorien challenge mission. So we'll see. So on top of that, so consider that on normal difficulty you are meant to be over level 22. I'm level 29 on heroic difficulty, so it must have scaled. So technically I should be level 30 something probably, but well, we'll see. I don't know if we get experience from this. We should. Well, if we get some extra experience, at least I'll be level 30 and see if I can survive. As I said, I optimized my skill tree and my gear. As you can see, I'm no longer using a shield. We are using a two-handed axe. Yeah, we're getting experience. At least I want to believe so.
Their archers have the high ground.
Ah, yeah. My crossbow certainly isn't It's the same crossbow. It's the only part of my gear that I haven't updated. The only... Well, I think this one's dead. So, well, let's see. Yeah, the main thing that we need to analyze here, that we need to pay attention to, it's if this is infinite, if it's an endless mode, like a horde mode in Gears of War. Because, for example, I think in Gears of War 2, Gears of War 3, horde mode was infinite. I remember playing them indefinitely on the Xbox 360, or if this is a set amount of waves, kind of like 20 waves, 25, something like that. Something like, for example, in Borderlands, or like Moxie's Arena in Borderlands, or I don't know. Like God mode on the Xbox 360 or on PC, something like that. We need to see if it's a limited number of waves or if it's endless mode. Because if it's endless mode, the replayability of this game is a bit more increased. It's a different case. If this is an endless mode, kind of like a score attack mode, it would greatly... It would change my qualification in terms of the replayability of the game, because at least you have to finish the game on normal, heroic, and legendary difficulties on the 3 of them, just like you would in Diablo 2 with normal, hell, and nightmare. At least with the median Excel mode, and well, on top of that, if you have an endless mode, well, it's a bit different because the gameplay loop is a bit different. But if this is not endless, this is roughly like Vanquish. Just, which, in case you don't know, it was a pretty amazing game. Pretty amazing and smooth mechanics. Pretty amazing and smooth mechanics. It's a third-person shooter developed by Platinum Games and published by Sega. Amazing game. Highly recommended, but it's only 6 hours long. Oh boy. I knew that was gonna happen. Don't worry, because now I can do this. Well, you revived him before. I didn't know you could... Damn it. I didn't know you could evade them. Don't worry.
Sorry to put you to that bother, my friend.
Damn it. You have to be kidding me. I need to get to that bridge, where this is a terrible positioning. As you can see, I bought some potions, because here they will be needed.
I thought elves were meant to have long lives.
The other one is gonna die. Don't worry, because now I do this, and you are both revived. See? I got that talent that I wanted. Alright, I think... Well, but here, if they are all ranged, it's a problem. Well, we'll stay here, because at least they cannot engage us directly here. Only from there. Oh, we've got a mage there. So yes, I was saying... What the... Who attacked me? I'm going to use all of my potions in case... Oh boy. Damn it. I couldn't do the war cry. Damn it. Well, this was short-lived. See, I told you that we probably... the mages. That we probably needed to be of a much higher level, damn it. Or at least I should have updated my ranged gear. Let's see. Don't worry, if I fail, we'll restart again. I just need to do a war cry. Where are these idiots? Come on. Now, let me... If you could only shield me from those mages. Alright, we'll fight here. Or at least I will fight here. I don't know about them, but I'll fight here. If they die, I can use the Warcry ability. And revive them. You are both dead again. Damn it. I should have been closer to them. This way, please. Don't you worry. Warcry is coming your way. Come on, don't die, just don't die. Stay put. There you go. And I killed the other one. Yes, I enhanced the damage of the Warcry. Alright, let's see if I can kill those two. Yeah, the only weakness, the huge weakness I have is that I have no ranged attacks. But if I could reach those two idiots from here... no, I cannot reach them. Alright, where are those mages? Hey, here I can loot something. Bolts, health and power potion. Yeah, we'll probably get killed by ranged attackers, if that ever happens. Ah, there you are. There you are. Let's see. Damn it, it's kind of like on top of a platform. It's a specifically done so you don't target them with melee attacks. Damn it. I don't know why they deal so much damage. Right, so my top priority should be to kill mages now. From now on. Damn it. That's right, give us Sanctuary. Give us Sanctuary. And let me guess, there's one more. Ah. Two more, actually. God damn it. Let's see. It's working. And I highly doubt it can target me from here. From this position. Here. Take that, take that. By the way, on... Oh, what a surprise! Would have never guessed it. Ah, another one here. Okay. Yeah, but they can kill them without melee attacks. It's much more difficult. Let me guess, there's another one here. Oh, nice. I have no ammo. You guys will have to do some. Any more arrows? This is not what I actually intended. Yeah, I never imagined we had this mechanic. God damn it. This way, please. Damn it. There you go. And now you heal me, please. Oh, damn it. Alright, let's see. I should have certainly invested some points on dexterity, don't worry. Anyways, I can respec if it gets out of hand. Where's this? There we go. Finally. I wonder if it records my progress, because I can kind of like go back to town. Boss wave! What's this? Point of interest, travel to Mirkwood. Yeah, travel to Mirkwood. The damage they deal is more or less what I was going up against over at Mount Gundabad offline on Heroic. Nothing that we cannot handle for now. Just place no more ranged attackers. That was... I wonder if I can call Bellaran here. No, I cannot. Damn it. I didn't mean to do that. Damn it. A little help here. How about you guys help me here? Well, I think they didn't help me, but well, it worked. I am tanking the troll alone by myself. Well, as you can see, I deal more than 1000 DPS per hit. And I deal some small area of effect damage, damn it. Finally, some help. Don't you worry, anyways, I am tanking them. They have to attack me. Ha, it was almost dead. There you go. Anyone else? No one else. Dead, all of them. Let's use a mana potion. Sorry that my throat today. Clearly the winter has arrived here. You're enjoying the summer over there, over at the northern part of the planet. You're enjoying the summer, but now we are entering the winter. It's kind of like exactly the opposite. Kind of like June, July and August. These 3 months are terrible for us. It's kind of like June the 7th today. It's June the 7th. And yeah, June, July and August, they are kind of like the winter, pretty much. Then on September, it's the spring, and well, it's totally different. Hey, 10,000 hits. How about you take care of the ranged attackers? I can deal with the melee ones. Well, you can also help me, I guess. As long as you don't stand over there doing nothing. Well, we all knew that that execution was not gonna work. Come on, don't block the execution damage. I hate it when they do that. Let's see, let's see. Right on time. Goodbye. Hey, we should be fighting here because, you know, the ranged attackers, be them archers or mages, they cannot deal damage. See, as you can see, I have a small area of effect attack with this weapon. And a small damage bonus. Hey, don't run away. You were fighting me. There we go. Yeah, I highly recommend, perfect, that you play as Farin if you want to do this challenge mission, because he's basically the only one who can revive them instantly. Let's get over here. Get over here, please, you two. Come over here. Yes, here. Slowly. Come over here. Oh, we have dual wielding enemies. Careful, they can interrupt you. 1 and 2. Stay back here. Come over here. Better yet, I'll make them come this way. Oh no, I've learned my lesson. This one first. First the dual wielding enemies, always. Because they can interrupt the other two idiots and... and basically you will lose both of them before you even realize it. Remember to block them. It's over. 1 and 2. Perfect. Good positioning. Hey, we are getting experience. Hey, that one's moving. I know, but it's dead. Alright, we have some ranged enemies, but they are not on those platforms, so they are in range. They are in range of my axe. Let's finish this. And now you two. Ah, I forgot that I can run. Yeah, I discovered that I can run in this game. You'll see right now. Now. Look at this. See, I can run. This one, not so fast. Dead. Come on. If they don't attack me, they kind of like deal less damage. It's a penalty if they don't attack me with the war while the war cry is. That's why they try to attack me. They deal less damage there. It's kind of like a penalty because I'm tanking them. I would have never guessed that you could run in this game like this. Look at this. Come on, quickly. Come this way, you two. Hey, look at that D. Alright, so we have endless ammo. We have endless ammo. They kind of like respawn the chests every time. Alright, they respawn every time you complete a wave. Alright. One, and I didn't. That one is mine. And this one is mine as well. Come on, I need to interrupt this guy. Enough. Here. What? Power's too low? I don't think so. I bet you didn't expect that. It's my new area of effect. Below. Come on. You have to be kidding me. There we go. I hate it when the executions don't work. Come on, war cry. Damn it, I wasted a potion. I knew that was going to happen. Can you revive her so I don't have to wait until... Well, anyways, there we go. We have the war cry. No, he revived her. Good. Nicely done, Eradan. Nicely done. There we go. And now you take this and this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. See? I learned a trick or two. That one is alive. Come on. Done and done. Yay! So, every time a wave is completed, the chests respawn or what? We'll realize here. No, it didn't respawn. It didn't respawn. Probably it has a longer cooldown. Whatever. Hey, I hear some flames. Probably there are some explosive enemies. Or mages. Yeah, we have explosive enemies. Perfect. I don't think they can attack me from behind, so this is the perfect spot. Now this is good position. In case you are wondering, this is the first time I play this map. In case you think my position is... Ah, look at that, he's got such good positioning and a strategy. No, it's the first time I'm playing it. I just came up with this strategy. I just came up with this strategy. sorry that my throat is completely destroyed today. I don't know how my voice may sound, but it's not my best. It definitely isn't my best commented stream because of how... because of the terrible state my throat is in right now. Ah, we've got a mage there, but he's in range. And I know how to run now. I don't think so. First, you should always kill mages, because otherwise they deal way too much damage, but they die extremely fast. Are there any other enemies? I don't want to... Ah, right, no, the wave was the explosive enemies. themselves. One down. Come on, let me kill the other one. Perfect. Yeah, it's kind of like... It needs to be frame perfect if you want to kill... If you want to kill them, both of them. Yeah, right, reinforcements. Nice. Help me. What are you doing there? Andriel, you're gonna get us all killed. Damn it. I need to stop them, damn it, these idiots. Come over here, that's why I'm fighting here. I'm attracting them here so you two idiots can come over here. Come over here, come over here. Well, whatever, anyways, if they don't come, I mean, I'm killing all of them on my own, so yeah. Come on. Let me kill that one. There we go. Come on. Say goodbye to your head. My Warcry was so powerful that it stunned that one there. Well, it didn't stun him, but it was the final blow. Alright. Nice, Andriel. You obeyed me, but where's our friend Eradan? What's this idiot doing? Yeah, you'll have to get used to babysit the artificial intelligence. If you're playing on heroic, you can get killed pretty fast because of them. Where's Eradan? Eradan, where are ya? This is like Scooby-Doo. Eradan, where are you? There you are, finally. Oh, we got a boss. I better heal. Aid me, yeah, here I go. I'll need to be careful here, we don't have a lot of room. Not so fast, I'll have to use potions here. Damn it. Ah, the dual we have a dual wielding. Two dual wielding enemies. There. Damn it. Damn it. No. Get out of there. There we go. Finally. Something useful. We got an opening. Damn it. So Eradan, how about you join us in melee instead of shooting arrows? Damn it. I'm using potions, but... Damn it. They are dealing way too much damage. They are dealing way too much damage. Damn it. Nice try. Damn it. I wasn't expecting a boss right here. No, I have to split them. I have to split them. So no, you won't die. Trust me. Well, yeah, you guys are about to die. Now she's gonna try to revive him, and they will come over here, and as you can see, they have been saved. And look at that, the boss died because I basically killed all of the other enemies, and they focused their arrows exclusively on him the whole time, basically. What are you doing? Don't get up this time. Damn it, I had to spend way too many potions. Now I know that I should have brought even more potions with me for this. Well, at least the usage of potions that I complained so much about throughout the normal playthrough is justified for this. At least for this small part of the gameplay. 2, 3, 4, 5, die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, die. Oh well, there we go. Now. During the weekend, I finished Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of the Sky, a game that I wanted to play for a lot of time because I played the other one, Explorers of a Blue Rescue Team, both on the DS. Wave 11, there we go, I saw it respawn. Alright. Chests have been replenished. Alright, it tells you. Alright, I need to take care of these guys. As you can see, my armor is pretty good, because they don't deal that much damage to me. They should be dealing much more damage. We'll try to tank these two bosses here. No, the other one. There you go. Goodbye. Good riddance. I think I bet they can handle at least one enemy there. Alright, Unreal is coming this way. She'll try to help me with the bubble. Magnificent. But I'll have to tank them. I need to ensure I don't die. If I die, they are both dead. If one of them dies, I can revive him. Alright. 4 bosses. Nice. Unreal is dead there. Let's see how much she can last until I can kill this guy. Oh, we have a problem here. It's a pretty nasty combination. I need more room. There are no archers, right? Yeah, there's one there.
Hurry before death claims her.
Damn it, they're both dead, these idiots. Hi. Where are ya? Unreal? Where are ya, Unreal? Damn it. Yeah, we're dead. We're dead. We are pretty much dead. God damn it. God damn it. And what happens if I... Hang on a second, we'll do a test. We'll do a test. We'll do a test, people. We'll do a test. I want to see if I can return to town and if it saves my stupid progress. Here. I don't know to what wave did I make it. Maybe they are endless. The question is, how do I verify if they are endless if they have no... Whatever. Anyways, today we have to do the analysis, so I'm not gonna showcase everything. I just want to see if I can record it. And then I will verify if... they don't have numbers. We've completed. Spear shall be split. Let's see. What happens if I do this? Let's go back to Northern-Bad. Heroic difficulty, blah 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 blah. What happens if I do this? I want to see if it records the progress. Let's test that. So I return here, for example. I go back over here, all the way here, and let me see if the I want to verify if the challenge is endless or not. I do this, here I buy some potions. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. We buy here, we buy this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey, I think I lost some money there because of the fact that I died. That's not cool. There, well. Let's see. Alright, let's see if we can... I'll do my repairs over at Rivendell, because I want to also get the... I want to see if I can finish the Chronicler sub quest or whatever, and we'll see if it gets recorded, if the progress actually gets recorded in those waves. Let's see. Let's see. Here, let's go to Rivendell. I want to see if it recorded my progress. Let's see. We do this. Let's imagine I go back. I buy some potions because anyways I lost money. I think because of those two. There we go. Let's buy even more potions. As you can see, potions did have a purpose, but only for this part of the game, because during the rest, it turns the game into a much easier experience. La 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 la. Ha 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 ha. Let's see. Any repairs? Did they take damage? 129. Could it be that they don't take damage? No, apparently they don't take damage in those challenge missions. Well, that's reasonable, I guess. Or I don't know. Maybe as you can see, I have items with extended durability. Here, 130, 220. They have extended durability. At this level, items do last much more time, which is amazing, because otherwise you have to be repairing them all the time, and yeah, pretty much. Those who venture into the do you have a just in case? No, you don't. You don't. I wanted to see if she had one of these, but not of strength, one that increased my armor, because I have one open slot. I have one open slot. I have this one that we could apply, but I don't know if it will affect my weapons. I don't know if it will affect my weapons precisely, but I guess I'll have to risk it. Not here. What's the other one? Here, this one. I'll have to risk it. I don't know if it will affect my weapons. I know I cannot place it. No. No. I cannot even place it now. I need one that increases my armor. So let's see. Let's go back over there. Let's see if it recorded my progress. I don't think so. But well, let's see. New quest, Osgiliath challenge. 5, 4, 3, but let's see what wave. Wave 1. No, it doesn't record your progress, as you could see. Then some other day, once we don't have to do the analysis, because today I want to get to the analysis of the game, which will take me an hour and a half or so, we can go back to this. Let's try the other one. We need to find out. I just want to find out if it's endless or not. That I will have to. Well, this is the exclusive Lorien challenge mission, so let's see. Wave 1, let's see if we can finish this one. I don't think so, because this one is tougher than the other one. 11 to... See what I told you? 11 to 22, that's basically... here we have Undead instead. Lorien, the winter comes. The bear and the leafless day. They have phrases from the movies. Look at this. Alright. More or less here the map is different. I think we can kill them here. This is a pretty good spot. Let's see. Yeah, I should add that at least one more mod slot. Hey, look at that, level 29. Hey, I lost my experience because of the fact that I died. Hey, that's no fair. I lost my experience and my money. Hey, this challenge is pretty good. It's turning out to be pretty interesting. So you lose experience. We are back to level 29, and damn it. The level cap of the game, in case you're interested, is 40. I've researched that. So basically, the leaves are falling in the stream, the river flows away. Are we? Are we stalked by the undead? So as I was saying, I finished Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of the Sky, as I was saying half an hour ago, probably. Nah, 20 minutes. I finished Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of the Sky because I played the previous one. Amazing games, highly recommended. Don't be fooled by the fact that it's a spin-off, by the fact that the Mystery Dungeon series it's a spin-off. Don't be fooled because they are amazing. They have probably the best storylines in any Pokemon game ever. The Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series storylines are amazing. I played both of them. Blue Rescue Team and Explorers of the... I wonder if I exit right before I get killed, I can retain the experience and the money. Probably that's why that thing is there. I bet that's the reason why we have that thing there. Wave 3, yeah, we have numbers. So I can count. Which wave we are on. Let's see. Damn it. So the other one is about orcs and this one is about undead. I love that they both have their styles, each one of the challenges. That's pretty good, they have their own artistic direction. Pretty amazing. Then we can do the challenge some other day after the analysis. We can do kind of like... I can record it offline, like with Hellgate London, because of the increased difficulty. We can do it some other day. Today I just wanted to showcase it, and well, at least I wanted to see if it was an endless challenge or not, but basically, as you can see, it's pretty tough. I love how it says, no, level 4 to 16, come over here, you're level 4, you can do it. I'm level 29, level 30 on heroic, and I cannot do it. And as you can see, now I can identify when they need to be finished on the ground there. So... And I learned how to block and how to optimize my skill tree, for example here. Here you can see that Farin only had this talent, increases damage you cause with 200 melee weapons, so basically I was using a terrible skill tree. I don't know how I could kill Agandaur with broken gear and a terrible skill tree. But well, now I've optimized everything, and even so, as you could see, I got killed over there. The problem is that if the AI controlled companions get killed, basically you have to save them. Fortunately I purchased that talent, but... The dead are upon us! Yes, they are. I should also improve my crossbow damage, my dexterity. But yeah. La 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 la. But well. Oh, we got a headless archer there. I wonder how he can attack me without ice, but well. At least for now, here there are no explosive enemies. Those are pretty pesky to deal with. And there are no mages, no orc mages, but well, I think the undead also had mages. They had the whites. There we go, finally. You need healing? I'm soloing them here. Damn it, my throat is in such a terrible state. What? You are both about to die? Go, revive him. I'll deal with these guys. Revive him. You are alone.
That was too close for comfort. You have my thanks.
Anything else? Ah, this one. That's right. So yes, I was saying Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Amazing. Amazing series. You have to try it. The first one is a bit repetitive. Kind of like it's not as... The pace is not as good as the second one. I realized now that I have finished it. Explorers of the Sky, it's a masterpiece. Explorers of the Sky, not only the narrative, the gameplay is improved. The pace is much better than Blue Rescue Team. I finished it on Sunday and amazing. 10 out of 10 without a doubt. Just in case you are interested. The Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series. Of course, I cannot showcase because I don't know how to capture footage from my 3DS. Because if I could do that, we could basically showcase games from the Game Boy, the GBA, basically every single Nintendo handheld except the Switch, because of the collection that I have there with the Virtual Console and everything. So yeah, pretty much. Hey, we need to do this challenge some other day. Well, let's see if I can finish this one. Supposedly this one is a bit harder than the other one because of the level. But if we cannot finish them today, don't worry, I'll play this offline because this looks amazing. And I want to finish the challenge to see if it's endless or not. But even if it's not endless, the difficulty is pretty high, as you could see. I lost my gear, my money, and gear and everything. No, not my gear, my experience. Here. There you go. Not so fast. You try to do that pesky heavy attack. That one is down. Goodbye. Hey, I think it's alive. Not now. Yeah, I basically should improve my range damage, and there we go. There, I kind of like forced the execution. It's pretty tricky to do, but you can do it. If you perform one heavy attack right before trying to kill them and their health is low, you can get away with doing an automatic execution that under normal circumstances you couldn't do. But yeah, I'm going to complete this challenge, just maybe not today. The other one, the Osgiliath challenge, that one. There we go. Goodbye. And this one, if I cannot do them now, today, we'll complete them next time. Scarlet Dragoon, how are you? Sorry that last time I confused you with Novat. Sorry. How are you? You have no idea, this challenge. If you watched previous gameplays of me playing this, I love how it says, no, recommended level is level 4. Go ahead, do it, even if you are level 4. I'm level 29 and I got killed in the previous challenge. So yeah, I basically don't know if it's endless or what, but I already got killed once, and we got zombie trolls here, so yeah. Hey, one dubbed. I don't know if you are busy or not, so sorry if you are busy and you cannot write in chat, but I had the dubbed. In the end, could you find the copy of Hellgate London? That I remember that you said you had the physical the physical edition, and I told you about London 2038 and the dual installation, and I had the curiosity if in the end you could install uh, London 2038 or Revival or the Hellgate Tokyo or any mods, if you could revive that physical edition, or if at the end of the day it was a closed chapter in your life, because I remember you said you played all of the classes. I remember, but yeah, I had curiosity to know if in the end you chose one of the mods or not.
We have need of you.
Well, I mean, damn, these guys will get me killed any day at this point. Come on, just a bit more. Haven't checked out online version or mod as yet. Ah, you're still... But... Had 2 Caesars. Oh, sorry to hear that, man. Totally forgot. So sorry, sorry that happened too. Yeah, no, so sad. No. Sorry. Oh, hope you're okay. Are you okay right now? But are you okay? No, sorry to hear that. You just reminded me. No. Yeah, mostly. No. Sorry to hear that. No, sorry to hear that. But yeah, you're okay. Yeah, mostly. Damn, sorry to hear that. Have a meeting with doctor on Thursday. Oh, sorry to hear that. No. Might adjust meds. We will see. Oh, so sorry to hear that. No, those are terrible. Those are terrible. I've known people that have had them, and yeah. Even my grandma had my grandma before dying. She was 92, and she had those right before dying, and yeah. They are terrible. But well, yeah. They are terrible. But well, she also had Alzheimer's, so yes, yeah, pretty much. It was kind of like derived from that, and yeah, I know it's terrible. It's terrible because you cannot control your body, and 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 if there's the worst part, it's if there's no people around. Yeah, if other people don't know about the situation, that's the thing. Yeah. Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. But well, if you keep someone around you, at least they know how to react. In that case, me and my parents, we knew how to react when that happened to her, and well, in the end, of course, she was 92, and she died because of the COVID. Um, but after the COVID, actually, in 2021. But yeah, they are terrible. So I know what you mean. I know what you mean. The thing is that if you have people around you, somehow they can react to it. That's the thing. The problem is when there's no one around you. When it happens, for example, I remember back in high school, in Argentina it's called secondary school, but it's the same as high school. I remember um, in my class, at at most I've lost 1 year-ish of memory. Oh, that's terrible. Damn it. Yeah, because it kind of... This last one was only like 24 hours. Damn it. I mean, yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. Yeah. For example, my grandma didn't remember anything. In the end, she didn't remember anything. For example, and yeah. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's sad and terrible. But yeah, pretty much. I remember that back in secondary school, the same as high school, pretty much. In case it's the U.S., it's pretty much the same. a classmate suffered that during a football match. During a football match, soccer. In case of the U.S., it's the same. Soccer for the European Union and us, and football for us and the European Union, and soccer for them. 1 year of memory was fine. It was just work stuff. Got to go back my old automation and go, man. This code is genius. Wish I remember writing it. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, it was just work stuff. I got back to my automation and go, man. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's like that. It can affect your work. It can affect, yeah, 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 yeah. The thing is, the problem is when you, for example, it happens to you when, for example, you are kind of like extremely young, kind of like when the brain is still developing, and and yeah, as an adult, well, as you said, you forget things. But if it happens to you when you are, I don't know, 10 years old, 5 years old, I think I was mid-age before my first. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Around 30. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's at least it doesn't affect the development, sorry, of the brain. That's the thing. That's the thing. Uh, because I've known, as I've said, this guy from secondary school, which is high school for the US. He was playing a football match, and it happened to him exactly like what you are describing. Mostly from sleep deprivation, overworked, and very sick at the same time. Stress. The combination of stress with, as you said, with the sickness, it's terrible. It's terrible. Um, it's terrible because it's a combination. It happened to this guy, as I've said, that was a classmate during a football match, and fortunately, at least one of the teammates of the football or soccer match, they knew how to react. The problem is when you are alone, when it happens to you and you are alone. Don't work like that anymore, and learn to take sick days when needed. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll just do kind of like a random assumption. Is it the U.S. Perhaps? Perhaps you are referring to the U.S. I don't know. It could be other country, but generally, overwork situations like that are from the U.S. Generally, uh, generally, or I don't know. I know it's like that. At least a lot of cases I've seen is it's like that, and and yeah, random assumption, but I would say it's the U.S. But yeah, but yeah, yeah, yeah. Pretty much, it could be any country. It could be any country. So yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. I know what you mean because I lived it with my grandma some 10 years. Well, a bit less, 7, 5, something like that. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, in her case, it was worse because it was kind of like combined with the loss of memory and kind of like mini strokes, because that's a problem. Most people sometimes they don't realize it, and they have kind of like mini extremely small strokes over the years, and that's what happened to her. She was fine. She lived a perfect normal life, for example, but she had those mini strokes. She didn't lose memory or anything up until 85, 87, and from 87 onwards, the the seizures combine with the strokes, and it's much worse. It's much worse. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. In that sense, it's terrible. But I didn't know they could affect the memory like that. I didn't know they could affect the memory like that. I didn't know it. So yeah, my best wishes, man, and I hope you recover completely and that they don't happen to you anymore. Uh, like, health is always the most important thing we have all over the world. Without it, you are kind of like not comfortable, you're uncomfortable, you cannot do your daily routine, you cannot, it's like that. Hell, I even have my throat right now in a terrible state, and I am uncomfortable, so I can imagine. Yeah. The other, in terms of the more, yeah, yeah. Okay, that one I already read. Yep. So yeah, pretty much. When I was doing the analysis of precisely Hellgate London, not when I was beginning the modded version, the London 2038 version. Precisely, I had a corneal erosion instead, a corneal erosion from a marathon of playing Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, and basically my left eye, uh, I couldn't see for a month, and that's why I had to stop streaming that month. And yeah, it was extremely uncomfortable, so I cannot imagine that one. Besides with the loss of memory and those things. So yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, what's this? Hey, I didn't know they could do this. Well, they're spiders after all. But yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It's like that. Well, in terms of work, in my case, it was pretty interesting. I started out as English teacher, then I became a lawyer, then I studied to be a lawyer, and then because of economic reasons of my country, I had to go to software developer. I had to turn into a software developer because yeah, our problems are economic. In our case, pretty crazy situation. And yes, basically, there's a huge difference in payment between software developer and lawyer in my country. And yeah, pretty much, I had to go through 3 different careers, and on top of that, my my lawyer career had philosophy embedded in it because of cultural reasons of Argentina, because we're kind of like, I think I haven't told you, I do quality assurance, automation, get around what developers get in this country. Yeah, you might. Quality assurance. You are the one. You are kind of like the devil's advocate. The quality assurance in my experience. And yes, pretty much they kind of like tell you, well, you think this code is okay, but it's not okay. And you are the ones who spend a lot of time fixing the disasters that we do both in the back end and the front end. So yeah, basically, I don't know if the situation is worldwide or what, but traditional professions I realized when I finished my law career, at least in Argentina, in South America, they don't. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference in payment. So I learned how to develop software, and I found out that I was tested, of course. I was tested because I didn't go to university, so my tutors were, they had to test me. Sort of also work with developers to reduce the bugs, to reduce bugs. I often write code in same language so they can steal my tests if needed. Yes, it's like that. It's exactly like that. Though I wouldn't do it unless totally necessary. Yeah, 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 yeah. Pretty much. Pretty much. Uh, Well, I wasn't expecting the explosive enemies here. Let's get to the final analysis. An hour and 20 minutes because the analysis will take me a lot of time. Let's get to the final analysis. So yeah, pretty much. It's like that. It's like that. You guys kind of like always ensure that we pretty much don't release a code full of bugs when the upper charges the boss the pretty much the lead developer, the chief of the team, pretty much says we have to release this right away. We have to release it. And yeah, glad to see heroic difficulty in this is nice and hard. Don't be fooled because it's only the it's precisely the challenge modes. It's precisely the challenge modes. They say level 4 to 16, and those and yeah, pretty much you need to be level 30. And after heroic difficulty, after you finish heroic difficulty, you kind of like do legendary difficulty. So it has 3 difficulties, and I wanted to find out if the challenge was endless or not. But sadly, I've been trying for an hour and 20 minutes, and I need to do the final analysis of the game. Precisely. You are right, precisely for. I think you've never seen the final analysis I do. I need to do the final analysis of the game, and um, and then I will see if I can finish it uh, offline because I got killed twice already. Because I love how they say heroic. They say levels 4 to 16, and it's not that. You need to be at least level 36 or something like that. Yeah, it's pretty challenging. The thing is that I wanted to find out if they are endless or not. Um, I wanted to find out if they are endless or not today, but because that will affect the replayability. But we need to finish the analysis because I have another great game and the preservation series that you saw the other day with the MOBAs. So I'll finish the analysis and then I will upload it over at YouTube if I can eventually survive. If I can eventually survive the waves, because if they are endless, anyways, I'll get killed. But if I get to something like wave 30 or something like that, clearly it's endless. Clearly it's endless. So yeah, let's get to the final analysis of War in the North. Then, if we have some extra time, we can continue trying, or then if it proves to be impossible because of the increased difficulty, I will upload it to YouTube. So let's get to the analysis. So let's get to the analysis. I love this part because it's been 10 days of analysis. In this case, this game was much shorter than Hellgate London, just so you all have a comparison in case you're watching this as a YouTube VOD. And we'll begin with the analysis. As I've said, a disclaimer before we begin, ladies and gentlemen. We still need to see if the challenge missions are endless or not, but we pretty much played the whole story. We have some few side quests that we couldn't complete, but pretty much we played 99% of what the game has to offer. As I've said, we have 3 difficulties. We'll get to it once we get to the level design, but basically you have 3 difficulties. Normal, don't play it on easy. There's no point. Normal, heroic, and legendary. Level cap is 40. I've already seen it, and basically it follows the same level design as Diablo 2 and pretty much Hellgate London and that classic style of isometric action RPGs. But we'll get to that once we get to the level design. We begin with the gameplay, ladies and gentlemen. After playing this game for 10 days, we did a complete walkthrough of the game. I completed as many side quests as I could, and pretty much we have different classes that affect the gameplay. We have different options. For example, you can do sword and shield, dual wielding to deal more damage. You can use two-handed weapons like two-handed swords or axes or maces or any other type of weapon, but basically there's two types of damage. Slashing damage, let's call it. It's not called like that in the game, but it's basically slashing damage, swords and axes. And then you have the blunt damage with maces, and I don't know if the staff of the mage would fall into that category, but well, pretty much you have different weapons at your disposal. And let's get to the core of it, the heart. The combat of the game, first of all, before we get to other aspects of the gameplay. The combat, ladies and gentlemen. What do we have here? What do we have here? We have a unique, perfect combination of the combo system in Batman Arkham Knight and Batman Arkham City, both magnificent games from the 7th generation, the PS3 and the Xbox 360. We have those two. We have that perfect combo system combined with the unique signature of Snowblind Studios, ladies and gentlemen. What is the signature? Something that I've already explained and covered thoroughly in the first part of the walkthrough, in which we explored all of the all of the track record, all of the history of Snowblind Studios with their legendary games. Remember Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 1? That was the first game that they pretty much developed and it pretty much designed a specific style of gameplay, which was the non-point and click isometric action RPG games. As you could see, and as I explained, all games developed by Snowblind Studios had a gameplay tendency to be played with a joystick rather than a mouse and keyboard, which is basically non-point and click gameplay of the isometric action RPG genre. I also explained this during the integral history of PC game genres when I commented about the isometric action RPG genre. Just so you have an idea, Diablo, Torchlight, Titan Quest, Path of Exile, Fate 1, Fate 2, all of those games basically are point-and-click isometric action RPG games. Kind of like they use the style of point-and-click adventures from PC games that were released during the 90s. In the case of the non-point-and-click gameplay style of isometric action RPG games, like Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, it's a much more recent style. It was pretty much the incredible idea, the great innovation once we get to that category of Snowblind Studios of creating a variation of the isometric action RPG genre. Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 1 plays like that, is played with a controller. Fortunately, you have the remastered edition on PC, modernly released for consoles and PC, that you can try, but few people remember that that game was released back in 2001. I'm using just my memory, but I remember them perfectly. 2001, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 1. Then we had also Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2, fortunately now remastered for PC and modern consoles. And then, as we covered that back during the first part of the playthrough of this game, Snowblind Studios developed more games like Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 1 and 2. Champions of Norath 1 and 2, which are exclusive to the PS2, just in case you're interested, but if you like Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 1 and 2, they are the same pretty much. And well, then they developed some other games, I think it was a Marvel Squad game, something like that, but it was pretty much the same gameplay style as Baldur's Gate, Dark Alliance 1 and 2, and Champions of Norrath. It was pretty much the same. Isometric camera, non-point and click mechanics, use your joystick. Ironically, this is a gameplay style. This is the gameplay style of another game that I want to showcase, which is Dungeon Siege 3, developed by Obsidian long ago. A pretty criticized game that was not fairly analyzed as I see it. But yeah, pretty much another great example you have there in Dungeon Siege 3. What do I want to get to with all of this? That the Lord of the Rings War in the North, as you know, is the swan song of Snowblind Studios. Pretty much it was their last independent game before they were acquired by Warner Bros. Interactive, and they precisely developed Shadow of Mordor, Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, and Shadow of War. As you could see, they even have the same logo in the intros when you open those games, both on consoles and PC. You can see the Middle-earth Enterprise logo, which is the same in Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War, and War in the North. So we are talking about the original Middle-earth Shadow game, let's say. It's kind of like Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor version 0.5. Right. But this game also has something extremely unique about it. Extremely unique about it. It's the first game that Snowblind Studios developed, and precisely their last game independently developed. I will check it anyways, but I think it's the case, with a third-person over-the-shoulder camera instead of an isometric camera. So they changed the camera for this game, which is a huge change for a studio that has been developing games kind of like with an isometric camera for all of their life. Yeah, Champions of Norrath, yeah, just like I told you, just Elite Heroes. But yeah, pretty much it also uses the isometric camera here. Yeah, it also uses the isometric camera. Yes, I was right. It's their only game, basically, their only game that was independently developed with an over-the-shoulder camera. That's a huge change for a development studio. First of all, think about something like Resident Evil. Resident Evil, when they changed from the isometric camera to the over-the-shoulder camera with Resident Evil 4, I believe, released on the GameCube, if my memory serves me right. Something like that. I don't like survival horrors, but I remember the story. So yes, as you can see, it implemented a lot of interesting things. But let's get to the combat. They managed to retain, precisely, I want to get to this, they retained the original gameplay style, that seal that I commented earlier of Snowblind Studios, of the characteristics of the combat of Snowblind Studios, pretty similar to a hack and slash game with a combination of light and heavy attacks, which make this game's gameplay much more similar to a combo system like Batman Arkham when compared to a traditional RPG. It makes it much more similar to those gameplay styles than to a traditional RPG. So yes, pretty much the camera changed, but the gameplay mechanics are pure and 100% the combat that you will find in Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 1, 2, and Champions of Norrath 1 and 2 from the 6th generation. So yes, we have an interesting combination in terms of the combat gameplay mechanics. The seal of quality, the style of Snowblind Studios combined with the combo system in Batman Arkham Knight, in the Batman Arkham series, pretty much. So yes, we have an amazing and interesting combination that you will find it's unique and amazing. So yes, pretty much. When we combine both of these systems, when we combine both of these systems, this is pretty much the result. This is pretty much the result, and indeed, it's a pretty unique result. It's a pretty unique result that you won't find anywhere else, to be honest. If I had to say something similar, would be Batman Arkham. It would be Batman Arkham Knight, City, and all of the Batman Arkham series, precisely developed by Warner Bros. It's interesting how how Snowblind Studios then merged with Warner Bros. And they combined everything. So yeah, it was like a special fate. In terms of the rest of the gameplay mechanics, as I've said, you have 3 classes. The blur between the line between the classes is pretty much blurred at this point. As far as I could tell, yeah, we analyzed the whole game, and there's not a lot of distinction. Yes, one could say that, well, I can distinguish that Farin is the tank. Eradan is a pure DPS class, and for example, I don't know, the mage, Andriel, it's a healer combined with DPS. So yeah, pretty much. The lines between classes are blurred, but basically, as you could see, I could only complete the game so far with Farin. So there's at least, let's say, light class system elements. We are talking about a game that allows you to be a tank, but you can also deal more DPS than Eradan, for example. As I've said, the classes are there, but they are not extremely defined, kind of like in classical school RPG games from the 90s or the early 2000s, for example. So yeah. Pretty much, it's the classes aren't extremely defined. Keep that in mind, and that affects the gameplay without a doubt. That without a doubt affects the gameplay, because you will see that not being knocked back ends up being much more important than dealing much more damage, than, for example, healing your teammates. Imagine if I tried to do all of these with Andriel, instead of Farin, and you can imagine the result. I would have been killed in a matter of seconds. Because I would have been knocked down, and basically I could not have revived any of my teammates, and the end result would have been an absolute disaster, right? So the basic premise and idea of the gameplay is that, due to the fact that the class system is not 100% defined, you need to pay attention to different things, not just the damage that you deal. You have to pay attention to, for example, not being knocked back or knocked down in the case of one of the bigger enemies. So yes, pretty much you will need to pay attention to those aspects of the gameplay, which are good because they add a lot of variety. You not only you just have to focus on the damage and those things, so it's a good aspect. Because it makes the overall balance of your gameplay much more varied. It's much more varied because you have to pay attention to not being knocked down, as you could see in the challenge missions. Fortunately, I could at least showcase one last part of the gameplay before I could get to this, so you have a reference in the same analysis. That is more important not to be knocked down to help revive the rest of your teammates than dealing a lot of damage. For example, just the most evident example I could think about out of the top of my head. But there are other examples. For example, the fact that, I don't know, because of the not so defined, because of the fact that the class system in this game is not precisely defined like games like, think about Baldur's Gate, but not Dark Alliance. The original Baldur's Gate, or Icewind Dale, or I don't know, many other traditional RPG games. For example, here, Neverwinter Nights, Lionheart, Legacy of the Crusader, Temple of Elemental Evil. All of those have defined and classic RPG roles. Think about World of Warcraft, just to use a popular example, and think how defined, at least at launch, classes were. In this game, no. While they try to do it, while they try to define kind of like Endriel is the healer, Eradan is the DPS, and Farin is the tank. Yes, there's kind of like, they are leaned in a way, they have a tendency to fulfill those roles, but at the end of the day, they can all deal damage. With a good combination, for example, Endriel can dual wield, turning into a DPS, for example, just so you have an idea. And pretty much they can all fulfill at least the role of DPS, the three of them. So yeah, that's why I'm saying that this game doesn't have a traditional and defined class system of tank, DPS, and healer. They can all be DPS at least, just so you have an idea. As for the rest of the gameplay, we need to take into account, as I've said, those specific things like being knocked down. For example, in Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, I don't remember that you could be knocked down. Also in Diablo, you cannot be knocked down. In Hellgate London, you cannot be knocked down. Either you are stunned, silenced, I don't know, you're lit on fire and you take burning damage, something like that. But specifically being knocked down is something that in terms of isometric action RPGs isn't common. I don't think that even, I want to think about Batman Arkham Knight, which is pretty much a hack and slash beat 'em up in 3D. In that one, yes, I think you can be knocked down. So it's a perfect combination, but only by pretty huge enemies. So I would say that this is one of the most unique. This game has a unique combination of genres and mechanics, because it's it has the level design of an isometric action RPG, but you can be knocked down just like in a hack and slash game. Think about Bayonetta, God of War, something like that. Batman Arkham. But you can be knocked down like in those games. Pretty interesting gameplay mechanic and a pretty well implemented combination. This would also be included in the innovation category of the analysis, because it's a mechanic that I haven't seen a lot in an isometric action RPG game. Think that this game isn't a modern RPG in which, for example, in The Witcher 3, yes, you can be knocked down. In, I don't know, Immortals, Phoenix Rising, those modern games, those modern RPG games. Think about traditional isometric action RPG games, and I cannot think of one that in which you can be knocked down. For example, I remember we played Shadows Awakening, and in that one, yes, you can be stunned, but that. Think about all of the Diablo clones, and I think you cannot be knocked down precisely. You can be stunned, as I've said. You can be silenced. You can burn. You can be burned. You can be poisoned. But being knocked down is something pretty unique in this game. I know, a subtle mechanic, but it certainly affects the gameplay. Why? Because it leads me to the other topic, one that I've discussed a lot throughout the analysis of this game, which is the balance between the usage of potions and the overall difficulty of the game. A topic that I covered a lot, but here we'll do a comprehensive um, analysis of it. The balance between the usage of potions and the overall difficulty of a game can lead to a disaster. As I always, I'm sorry that I always use this example, but because it's the most terrible example in terms of I always use the same game and poor game. It's a great game that I love, but Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. I don't know if the re-reckoning edition, the remastered edition, fixed this, but Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, for example, the game was amazing. It was meant to be an MMORPG, then it turned into an offline RPG. The gameplay loop was amazing. The gameplay mechanics were amazing, without a doubt. But the usage of potions was so unbalanced that it destroyed that gameplay loop that I was referring to. For those of you who haven't watched the rest of the walkthrough and want pretty much the definitive opinion that I have on this, because it's related to this analysis, in Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning you could simply spam potions and basically beat the whole game on any difficulty, at least the original version from the 7th generation on the Xbox 360, the PS3 and PC. You could basically beat the whole game on any difficulty just simply spamming potions. Why? Because potions didn't have a cooldown, you could endlessly purchase them, they were cheap, and in that game you cannot, I don't remember being silenced, so there was no mechanic at all. There was no cooldown, no silence by the enemies, no cooldown in terms of the gameplay mechanics. There was no kind of like scarcity in terms of the level design, and you could simply spam, and you could end the game with 40 potions, 50 potions, and you could simply spam them, and it destroyed the gameplay mechanics, because you could have a terrible skill tree, you could be, I don't know, a mage trying to use a sword, and you could finish the game. It completely ruined the gameplay. Pretty similar to Skyrim, but in Skyrim or in Oblivion, on the hardest difficulty, for example Oblivion with 100 difficulty, the enemies are much tougher and pretty much they can stun you, and all of those effects that actually make it much more difficult. But in Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, no, it completely ruined the experience. As I've said, I don't know if the re-reckoning edition actually fixed this. I need to try it. But yeah, we can use it as a perfect example. Getting back to War in the North. The balance between the usage of potions and the overall difficulty curve of the game, we find, in this case, we find a situation that it's unbalanced for normal difficulty. It makes it makes normal difficulty way too easy. They probably did it on purpose so people could at least finish the game once, which I understand, because that should help you to sell your game a bit more. The fact that, haven't you noticed that modern games, generally there's this tendency to at least ensure that the player will finish the game once. That's something that, for example, old school developers from the 4th generation, think about something like Battletoads, or that was not taken into account. Kind of like nowadays you pay for a game that you will be able to finish. Back in the 4th generation, the philosophy was different. You paid for a game that you had the challenge to beat. It's a huge difference. But well, that means that doesn't mean that in modern games there are no challenges. You have the challenge, but it's after the story mode, if there's any generally. That's why I always say that the 7th generation, for example, achieved a pretty good balance. Also the 6th generation, the PS2, the PS3, the original Xbox and the Xbox 360, or the Nintendo GameCube and the Wii, for example. They achieved a pretty good balance between the two extremes of this philosophy of making a pretty hard game and making a game that you'll be able to complete the main story, and then it will be hard in the end game. But well, in the case of War in the North, uh, normal difficulty is way too easy. The usage of potions is unrestricted, which highly impacts the gameplay. You can spam potions without any kind of cooldown. You cannot be silenced. You cannot be anything. There's no cooldown, no silence, no. There is a bit of a scarcity, but you can easily trick the game by going back to town and endlessly buying potions. So at the end of the day, you can endlessly buy potions. The economy system of the game allows you to buy a lot of potions. You could see that I have 20,000 money, 12,000 money because I got killed. But well, you could get the point. Each potion is extremely cheap, so you can endlessly purchase them. So, scarcity is not here, cooldown is not here, silence is not here. Under normal circumstances, I would say that this lack of balance between this apparent lack of balance between the usage of potions and the overall difficulty of the game, something that I pay a lot of attention to, it would ruin the gameplay experience, and it does it on normal difficulty. However, the game has one mechanic, the one I've been commenting precisely. That's why I've highlighted it so much during the analysis, because I didn't say this throughout the gameplay, throughout the 10 days of gameplay. It's precisely the knockdown mechanic of some of the bigger enemies. It's the only mechanic. It's kind of like that failsafe, that last key that the developers left in this game that allows you to create a balanced gameplay experience in terms of the combat. The fact that a lot of the bigger enemies can knock you back pretty much exponentially increases the difficulty of the game, and it's the key of the gameplay loop in this game. The knockdown, a pretty unique element that I wasn't expecting to find as the key that solves the balance between the usage of potions and the overall difficulty curve of the combat in this game. I think it's a unique case because I haven't seen it, because there's no other mechanic that prevents you from spamming potions other than the knockdown. But there's a second mechanic. They added two mechanics. A pretty subtle system that probably most reviewers back in the day didn't pay attention to at all, because as I've said, it's extremely subtle. The knockdown effect, and the other one, your companions, and the way that you can be killed by, not you, the AI controlled companions that you have to play with. Remember that in this game, for example, you can still play LAN with two other people. You can play together with kind of like in a group of 3, and each one takes one hero. In that case, the second element is somehow mitigated, is somehow it disappears. It's not this. It doesn't disappear. It's reduced because the AI won't be stupid. The artificial intelligence will be good. I mean, it won't be there. Sorry. It won't be there. You won't have to deal with a stupid artificial intelligence. And other people will control the other two heroes, and you won't have to babysit them. Kind of like, you could see that I was reviving them all the time in the Osgiliath challenge mission. Well, for example, that one. When you eliminate that element, I am sure that when it's played by 3 people, the game becomes extremely easy regardless of the difficulty. However, the version that I've been analyzing and the base experience, because the servers are dead of this game, and I highly doubt that how many people can play it on LAN. I mean, the servers are dead, so we cannot. It's kind of like analyzing something that doesn't exist, pretty much. there's no point. The servers are dead, so that's not an option. Let's get to the base version that 99% of you watching this analysis over at YouTube will stumble upon eventually. You won't be able to access the servers, and unless you have a friend to play in LAN mode. Fortunately, see how important LAN mode is. When I was commenting the preservation series of MOBAs the other day, since the servers are down, we need to take into account the second element. The fact that the AI-controlled companions can and will die, combined with the fact that you can be knocked down, a pretty unique combination as you can see in terms of the gameplay, that forces you to revive them constantly and to babysit them a bit, it's pretty balanced, is the one element that probably no one analyzed back in the day, the subtle core element of the gameplay loop that makes the combat in this game pretty good overall. Because not only you need to be careful not to be knocked down, as you could see how many times I had to use Farin's Warcry. In fact, I couldn't even finish the game without Farin's Warcry, which is pretty much the only ability that temporarily prevents you from being knocked down, besides other effects, but that one is the main idea. I cannot imagine finishing the game with Eradan or Andriel. It's 10 times tougher because you'll have to dodge all the time. Besides, Andriel's basic ranged attack consumes mana, and you'll also need to spam mana potions. So pretty much, I initially thought the game was way too easy, and it is on normal difficulty. But at the end of the day, I chose to play with Farin. I need to be fair. I had to at least compensate that knockdown mechanic by using the Warcry. Anyways, I was knocked down because the abilities have a cooldown, and basically the Warcry doesn't last forever, and the cooldown is longer, and there's a window, there's an opening for the enemies to knock you down. With Eradan, that opening is 100% of the time. With Andriel, that opening is 100% of the time. So if you want a challenge, play with Eradan or Andriel. But well, for the analysis, the gameplay we did was pretty good. So that knockdown mechanic, combined with the fact that the AI-controlled companions, if they die, you can lose. Even if you survive, you lose. You instantly die if one of them dies, and you have to revive them. The revive mechanic, you have to hold A close to them, and you can be knocked down, and you can be interrupted. So that's a huge opening for the enemies to kill you. It's a huge opening. The artificial intelligence is extremely good for a game that was developed back in 2011, even earlier probably. It's pretty good. For example, I've seen Eradan revive Andriel, the Ranger revive the Mage thousands of times, and the other way around the same. Andriel reviving Eradan while I was tanking them. So the artificial intelligence is pretty good. Both the enemies and your AI control companions. This leads me to something that I've always commented, that nowadays, with so many multiplayer games, investment on artificial intelligence for games developers should pay much more attention to that, without a doubt. Because either we are getting multiplayer or the artificial intelligence is dumb most of the time, and that's something that they should pay more attention to. Now, the inevitable. Well, we covered the mechanic revival in terms of the gameplay, the knockdown effect, how it balances the difficulty. Pretty much the combat is balanced. And now let's get to the usage of potions. As I've said, on normal difficulty, I would say it's unbalanced, but as you get to the challenge missions or when I was playing on heroic difficulty and legendary difficulty, it slowly gets balanced. It slowly gets a bit more balanced. I would have still added a cooldown to the usage of potions. I think that any game not using at least a cooldown. For example, Diablo 3 included it in comparison to Diablo 2, probably the only good thing it did. So yes, pretty much. They came up with a pretty unique way to balance the usage of potions and the overall difficulty of the game. As you could see, I could instantly revive my teammates thanks to the Warcry ability, but it's pretty much advanced endgame. By the time you can do this, you will have to worry about other things. As you could see, I got killed because you will be facing a lot of huge enemies that will knock you down in terms of the endgame. But well, getting back to the core of the gameplay system, the inevitable comparison, as I was saying some minutes ago. This game is one of those games that is the clear, crystalline, perfect proof that not all modern RPGs or isometric action RPGs, because now I've seen some of them like what I'm going to comment, not all of them need the set targeting system of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And I'm mentioning this game because a lot of people think that it was invented by Dark Souls, and that's a fallacy because it's not true. The set targeting system was created by The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and it doesn't have a stamina bar. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're watching this as a YouTube bot, the set targeting system is that system in which you press one bumper or whatever, and the camera is focused around a single enemy. And when you move, you kind of like strafe to the left, to the right, around that enemy. It's actually called the set targeting system because of the joystick of the Nintendo 64, precisely, because that's how Miyamoto developed it, not From Software. Sorry to burst the bubble. If it's the first time you're hearing this, people. But basically, this game proved that it doesn't need the set targeting system to have a perfect hack and slash combat gameplay loop. Unlike this one, there should be more games that follow this example, because nowadays we have a flooded market with a lot of modern RPGs with the stamina bar and the set targeting system. And no, not all games need this, and this game is the perfect proof. The same goes for Darksiders. The same goes for well, in the case of Bayonetta and God of War, the first ones there, hack and slash. But well, you pretty much get the point. Not all games need the set targeting system. Now let's get to the other element, the stamina bar of this inevitable comparison. The stamina bar. I can see, for example, games that have flooded the market, like those LX1, LX2, Lords of the Fallen 1, Lords of the Fallen 2, a lot of games that are Dark Souls clones. This game has a bit of a Dark Souls artistic direction, but they didn't include the influence of Dark Souls in the gameplay mechanics. And here we can see something extremely interesting that I've commented thousands of times. Not all modern RPG or action RPG games need to be like Dark Souls with the set targeting and the stamina bar. This game doesn't have the stamina bar, and it makes the combat much faster, and it doesn't have set targeting, and it gives you that idea of fighting hordes of enemies instead of focusing on one at a time. And it's perfect. It's a different style that has been sadly beleaguered. It's a beleaguered style of gameplay. Nowadays, we don't see many games with this gameplay loop, in which you can combine heavy and light attacks, which is an influence from the hack and slash genre, The artistic direction, in terms of the artistic direction, we can see an influence from Dark Souls. For example, when I got killed several times throughout the game, you could see that it said, "You died," and everything in red. Pretty much I'm sure they copied that artistic direction from Dark Souls 1 or 2 from the 7th generation, because this game was released back in 2011. And precisely, but they didn't copy the gameplay loop, the gameplay mechanics, the core of the gameplay mechanics of Dark Souls, because they knew they wanted to make a much faster game, and that's completely fine. Nowadays, most people think that fast gameplay and combat mechanics equal easy gameplay, that the game is easy, and that's not the case. This game perfectly debunks that myth, 100%. The same goes for Bayonetta, for God of War, and I think I cited thousands of examples when I did the Ultimate History of PC Game Genres collection, and yeah, pretty much as I've said, and as you could see here, there are RPG games with fast gameplay combat mechanics that are tough, and they will prove to be a challenge, and that they are perfectly developed, like this one in this case. At least the combat loop, the combat mechanics, that it works flawlessly. It works flawlessly. You have to move the camera with the right joystick. You have to move the camera with the right joystick, and it works perfectly. It works perfectly, and it's not a mistake. It's a different style of gameplay, not including the stamina bar and the set targeting systems, right? So it was an inevitable comparison, but I had to do it. The rest of the combat mechanics, ladies and gentlemen, this game combines both melee and ranged attacks, though as you could see, as I've said, the classes are blurred in terms of they are not perfectly defined like RPG games from the 90s and the early 2000s, but more or less, for example, Andriel's ranged attacks are much better than Farin's ranged attacks. There you could see not a clear distinction, but a lead. A slight tendency that the game, while the game doesn't have defined classes, because the lines between them are blurred at the end of the day. You can be a DPS even if you are playing as Andriel, for example, or you can be a DPS even if you are playing as Farin, which should be the tank. But also, for example, Farin can increase health regeneration, it gives buffs to the team, so that's technically a support role. So because of all of that, I say that the classes in this game are blurred. You won't find 3 defined roles that you can choose. No. It's a combination, and as I've said, that causes gameplay elements that normally wouldn't be taken into account, for example, the knockdown effects of the enemies that you could see, to be much more important, much more relevant. And that makes the gameplay loop interesting. As I've said, you have ranged attacks, you have melee attacks, and another important part of the gameplay that I'm going to get to is the item management. The item management. What do we have here? In terms of the system, of the combat system, remember I always classify them in extrinsic and intrinsic gameplay combat systems. Remember, extrinsic combat systems, we also commented this during the walkthrough, but we'll repeat it because this is the final analysis. Extrinsic gameplay combat systems. Monster Hunter, the perfect example. You cannot increase the base damage of your character in Monster Hunter by simply investing points in attributes like strength or the health through the stamina. No. Everything depends on the weapon. It's extrinsic to the character. The stats are extrinsic to the character. They increase the damage you deal. The damage you deal is increased by the weapons you use. Your health is increased by the armor you use, not because you invested points on stamina, strength, on base stats. If contrary to this, you can increase the base stats of your character through investing points on, I don't know, strength in terms of the damage, or health in terms of stamina or whatever, or I don't know, power or mana. In this game was called power instead of mana, but it's the same, and you can increase the overall power pool or mana pool. It's an intrinsic gameplay combat system. In the case of this game, we have, just like with, well, in the case of Hellgate London and Diablo, I would say they are a bit more extrinsic because they rely much more on the weapon rather than the stats. But in the case of this game, it's much more balanced to the center. It's not kind of like defined like completely extrinsic and completely intrinsic. As I've said, there are pure examples like Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter, it's a pure extrinsic game because you cannot increase any of the base stats of your character by investing points. But for example, in Diablo 2, you can increase the strength of your barbarian, and it will increase the damage, and you can also loot a pretty amazing weapon, and that will also increase the damage. It's a hybrid combination, for example, so it's not a pure extrinsic. So, let's get to this case once we have the theory. The Lord of the Rings War in the North it perfectly follows the system of Diablo 2, of Hellgate, of all of the classic isometric action RPGs that, for example, I showcased during the integral history of PC game genres. Think about Titan Quest, think about Torchlight, think about Fate 1, Fate 2, the predecessors of Torchlight, and you will see that it follows pretty much the same system. That pretty much it inherits all of that from those games. No, it inherits it from Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 1 and 2, precisely, which also followed, in turn, the heritage of Diablo 2. And Diablo 1, a lot of people always forget about Diablo 1, and it's an amazing case. So we have a perfectly balanced combat system, not fully extrinsic, not fully intrinsic. As I've said, just so you have a reference, Monster Hunter, pure extrinsic, pure intrinsic, I don't know, for example, Knights of the Old Republic, your lightsaber doesn't do a thing, doesn't change anything pretty much. Yeah, it can modify the damage, but it's not a huge difference. It's more on the side of intrinsic systems. But yeah, this one, it's pretty much metal, pretty much. I would say it's a bit more intrinsic because the stat points that you invest kind of like affect your skill tree, and that basically determines what weapons you can use. For example, you have to spend a point on the skill tree to dual wield with extra damage with Farin, or dual wield, no, do a two-handed, yeah, to have a two-handed weapon with Farin, or dual wield with Eradan. So I would say it's much more intrinsic because the skill tree in this case determines the damage even directly. There are talents that say increase damage with two-handed weapons, which you won't find in a lot of isometric action RPGs. I don't think there's a talent like that in Diablo or in Hellgate London, just so you have examples, or Titan Quest. They kind of like increase with different attacks the damage, but in this case it's the skill tree. So it's a much more, I would say it's from the center of the spectrum, it's a bit more intrinsic. It's a bit more intrinsic. Yes, the weapons increase the damage, that's why it's not pure intrinsic. But the skill tree, pretty much in this case, and the stat system affects the skill tree. The skill tree will affect the gameplay much more than the weapon you loot. Contrary to what happens with Diablo, in Diablo 2, I would say that the weapon you loot is much more, it has a much bigger influence, the same goes for Hellgate, precisely for Hellgate London, than the skill tree. So yes, pretty much in terms of that, but it's pretty much in the center of the spectrum. It's balanced, it uses both systems, you can invest stat points, and if you loot a pretty good a pretty good weapon, it will also make your life easier. So yeah, I would say it's hybrid. I could go on and on and on and on, but I think the gameplay, which is the core and main category of the analysis, as I always say, the heart of any video game is the gameplay. Uh, I think that is more than enough. Those were the pretty much the aspects that I wanted to cover. Also, you can engrave weapons. One last thing, you have a full inventory system. You can engrave weapons and increase your armor and increase your damage. There's elemental damage, something that we discovered right at the end of the first playthrough, pretty much. That you could deal fire, electric, and I don't know if there's any other type of damage. Pretty much following the example of Hellgate London and Borderlands. Pretty much those two games were pioneers in that. By the time this game was released, Borderlands had already been released, so it has no excuse. It copied the system from Borderlands and Hellgate London. So yes, pretty much, there's elemental damage. You can burn enemies. Enemies can take damage over time, periodic damage from being burned, and for example, shock damage. And they can also be frozen, I remember. That one, for example, is unique. I don't think you can freeze enemies in Hellgate and Borderlands. But well, pretty much. That's one last detail from the end game. So yes, pretty much. I think we covered everything. Weapons, type of the gameplay system, everything. If I remember anything else, we'll get back to that. But I want to get to the next part of the analysis. You've been watching the gameplay at 60 FPS. But when I did the second playthrough of the game, I discovered that the game has unlocked frame rates, so fear not. The game is playable at unlocked frame rates. I could play at 120, 130, 140 without any kind of issues. So the game has unlocked frame rates. Consider it's a game released back during the 7th generation, a period of time in which most games were at 30 and 60 FPS. They were locked at those frame rates. They were hard coded at those frame rates. By that I mean that a lot of games from this period of time cannot be unlocked. For example, Bayonetta 1 is only playable at 60 FPS max. For example, think about all of the games developed by Bethesda. Ironically, in the case of Bethesda, Morrowind is playable at unlocked frame rates, but not Oblivion and Skyrim. Interestingly, I don't know if the community has developed some kind of mod to fix that, but as far as I could investigate, they were locked at 60 FPS, and like this, thousands upon thousands of examples, and I'm not exaggerating. Most games of the 7th generation are hard coded, which is worse than locked, because it means you have to manipulate the engine, and 99% of the people cannot do it. You have to manipulate the game engine to unlock it, and most of the time it never happens. Or it breaks the physics. Mass Effect, Split Second, I can think of several examples, but you get the point. It's a miracle, it's a technological feat that a game from the 7th generation like this one is playable right off the bat, right from the get-go, at unlocked frame rates. It's a pretty positive aspect that the game has. It's a pretty positive aspect. In terms of the resolution, it's also unlocked, so you shouldn't have any kind of issues. The problem, it's, as I've said, it's not even technical, but I have to incorporate it here, is the fact that the Steam version is you can no longer get the Steam version. You have to kind of like search for an old school Steam key from 10 years ago. You have to do that, and ensure it's the version, as I've said, like this. This one is from the early 2000s, from 2012. I think I got it. This version here that I preserved. As you know, I preserve games, and this one had those extra challenge missions. But as I said, that's the problem. The scarcity of this version. The boxed Xbox 360 version and the PS3 versions, unless you get the special editions that Wikipedia has them, that included these challenge missions, because they are not DLC, they were kind of like embedded in each of the discs, as I was saying, in a specific releases of the game, like that. Unless you got those, you'll miss the challenge missions. So yeah, pretty much. In terms of the rest of the technical aspect of the game, the graphical effects of this game, I have to give it to them. They're outstanding. For example, if I had to highlight one, is the snow back when we were at Mount Gundabad 2 weeks ago, that the snow would get inside of the hood of the characters, or the bird, and for example, every time you roll in this game to evade enemy damage or something like that, see, for example, that's another gameplay mechanic that I forgot about. You can roll in this game and you can run to evade enemy attacks. You can also block, and that interrupts some enemies. And well, the enemy variety is pretty good. As you can see, I could speak about many other topics, but it would make the analysis way too long. The enemy variety basically in this game is pretty good. Not excellent, because something like Hellgate or Diablo, they have even more variety. But this one, considering how short the game is, the enemy variety is pretty amazing. But well, back to the technical aspect. When you roll with a character to evade an attack, your robes, your gear, your robes, get dirty with snow, with mud, for example. They react different according to the terrain, which is a pretty amazing touch. The facial expressions in this game, in terms of the dialogues, are also amazing. They are amazing. They are extremely expressive, better than modern Mass Effect games, not the original ones. For example, Mass Effect Andromeda, that disaster. But just so you can see another example, in a lot of modern games, faces feel unexpressive. In this game, not only the details, for example, the feathers on Belleran's face, the eagle, you remember, that aided us in our quest. The facial expressions of those creatures are expressive, precisely, and amazing. Amazingly, extremely polished and well done. They feel extremely real. And it's difficult because they are not human faces that you can scan like you do nowadays. Nowadays, in a lot of games, they hire, especially in AAA games, they hire actors and they scan their faces. Back in this period of time, they didn't have that technology. They didn't have it, so they created it kind of like hand drawn, manually, in an artisanal way. And the fact that they are so expressive, how do you scan the face of Belleran, for example, of an eagle? What do you grab an eagle and you scan it? No, you cannot do it. The developers of this game, the developers over at Snowblind Studios, they had to do them manually, and that is impressive. All of this work is probably never seen, because reviewers over at IGN or those normal gaming press sites, they don't pay attention to these details, and they are extremely important, because probably they took a lot of time to perfectly make those facial expressions without scanning any face. Back in 2011, with the technology of 2011, remember, we analyzed the games according to the technology of the time they were developed in. Then, a pretty amazing trick that I remember when we arrived back at Nordinbad instead of Mount Gundabad. At Nordinbad. No, in Rivendell. In Rivendell, we saw the facial expressions of the elves. Over at Rivendell. When we arrived at Nordinbad, the third base of the game, the one, the dwarf base, basically, let's call it, I realized a trick, a graphical trick, which was also used throughout the rest of the game. A pretty classic trick from the 6th and the 7th generation, which is combining a 2D image on the background far away with 3D models in the foreground. A pretty amazing technique that nowadays is not needed because everything is rendered in 3D, and basically you cap. Nowadays what they do is cap, at least I've seen it in a lot of modern games, they cap the view distance right away. During the 7th generation and the 6th generation, what developers did was combine 2D images in the background with the 3D image in the foreground, as I've said. But most of the time, you could realize it, more or less. The thing is that since they were games developed for console play, most of the time with console play in mind, they took into account that you were several meters for Europe and us, or inches in the case of the US, or feet, whatever unit of measure you want to use, you were several units of measure, let's say, instead of meters, in my case I automatically say meters, away from your TV. In a huge living room, imagine, and you wouldn't realize it. The player wouldn't realize it, because that viewing distance, combined with the viewing distance in the game, you can make this test, try any game from the 7th or the 8th generation, or the 6th generation, and you'll see that they use that graphical trick a lot. They also, for example, use 2D models to lower the graphical charge, let's say, of the console. For example, in things like chains are usually the case, that they are most of the time in 2D. To reduce the graphical, not the charge, sorry, the load, the graphical load. Sorry. It's just that in Spanish it's charge. No, load, the graphical load of the game. So basically, in this game, how polished is that 2D combination with that 3D? Because just like it's not like capping the viewing distance like in modern games, it can be done pretty well, pretty polished, in a pretty amazing way, and you don't realize it, or it can be done in a terrible way. For example, in RTS games, in a lot of old school RTS games, when I, for example, analyzed Battle March, there, since they didn't want to do kind of like a mess, and in Warhammer Mark of Chaos Battle March, they only applied the 2D images to the sky in that RTS. The camera is different, and well, everything. But in that case, they didn't make it kind of like for the 3D, for the environment at the same line, at the same level of the line of sight of the player. In this case, it's an over-the-shoulder camera, so there is no option. And I've seen a lot of cases. I don't remember specific names, but I remember a lot of cases of 3D games that the 2D image, you could instantly tell, even if you were playing several meters or inches away from your TV, that it was 2D. In this game, I highlighted it in a timestamp over at YouTube when we arrived at Nordinbad. When we arrived at Nordinbad, by the end of the game, it has to be the 8th or the 9th part of the playthrough. One of those. I showcased kind of like the end of Nordinbad, kind of like the background of the cave, and you could see that the picture at the end of the day, it's a photo, but the photo has to pretty much match perfectly. It has to perfectly match with the 3D environment, and there comes the talent of the 2D artist painting, because at the end of the day, it's like painting it's like a painting. It's like drawing a painting, more like a photo. It looks more like a photo, but you'll realize it if you pay close attention, because I stopped there for several minutes to showcase it, and there you can see it 2-3 streams ago, basically. And that photo perfectly matched the environment. I can assure you, I paid close attention for several minutes. You can watch it, and pretty much the pillars of the cave perfectly matched the water, and it's perfect. And if you don't pay attention to the ripples of the water in the distance, kind of like playing it on PC, it's an advantage because you're closer to your monitor and you can see it. But if I were playing the game 10 years ago in my living room with a much smaller TV, I wouldn't have realized. Hell, I think that nowadays people wouldn't even realize it if they would play it on consoles, kind of like several, as I've said, meters or inches away from their TV. That means the effect was pretty well done. So not only we're talking about unlock resolutions and frame rates, but also the graphical effects, the impact animations of the weapons, extremely important. What made Gears of War so amazing? The impact animations. This is something that I also criticized to Avencast Rise of the Mage, I remember, for example. The impact animations when you strike an enemy with your axe, with your sword, with everything, it's satisfying. The animation has weight to it. They feel heavy. The impacts feel heavy, and that's extremely important. In a lot of games from the 6th generation, for example, precisely the Lord of the Rings Two Towers and Return of the King, the kind of like the games based on the movies, if you play them. I don't know, the GameCube on PS2 and also on PC. I think the last one, Return of the King, was released on PC. It looks much better there. The impact animations are definitely not as good as this game. Another game that you could use as reference is The Lord of the Rings: The Conquest from Pandemic Studios, which is kind of like the successor of Battlefront 2 from 2005, the original. And there you can see that in The Lord of the Rings: The Conquest, the impact animations are good, much better than in the movies, in the games based on the movies from the 6th generation. But I would say that in War in the North here, the impact animations, they feel much better, leagues away. They feel amazing. We are talking about Gears of War level, because they also implemented the blood animation, pretty similar to Gears of War, but with the added component that the blood does look like the one that they show in the movies. They perfectly matched the artistic direction of the blood. I know it sounds extremely stupid, but these subtle details are the ones that I love to focus when I do my analysis. The blood, because at the end of the day, the developers took the time to do that. The blood, it's exactly like in the movies. If you make a comparison, it's the only Lord of the Rings game, besides Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, which are developed by the same company, that has the exact same blood animation as in the movies. And they make it feel natural, and the dismemberments and everything, they look really amazing. Well, this is part of the gameplay when you do the combo system present in Batman Arkham when you do the executions. Mistakes that I found. Sometimes your executions are blocked, precisely that's why I wanted to get to this, by your AI controlled teammates. It's a slight mistake in the case of that. Sometimes it happened to me when I was playing offline, so you won't be able to watch it so clear if you watch the gameplay mechanic, if you watch the walkthrough that we did. But sometimes when you enter caves to grab some collectibles, you can loot some chests and find some secret areas. Sometimes your AI controlled companions get stuck and they don't follow you, and you go to battle and you get killed. But because you do this, you kind of like turn your head around and you say, oh, what the fuck, what's going on? I'm alone, and you get killed. Pretty much. That was another case. And yeah, pretty much I cannot criticize the artificial intelligence because it's pretty well done. It's pretty well done. They can get killed. Another gameplay mechanic that I forgot, I knew I was forgetting about something, is that how they balance the I don't want to say how they balance the stupidity of the of the artificial intelligence, the efficiency, how they balance the lack of efficiency of the artificial intelligence with the overall gameplay mechanics of the game. Remember that I said that you have to babysit them, how they balance them, so it's not unbearable. Pretty much, I don't know if you noticed it, I highlighted it during the gameplay. The artificial intelligence, when you are not controlling them, the AI control companions will automatically unlock more advanced talents of the skill tree that you haven't unlocked while playing with said character. It's kind of like progress is saved on each character separately. If you play as Farin, well, then you can play with Eradan, but your progress in terms of the gear and the skill tree and the stats will be saved with Farin, and the same for the other two. If you play with Eradan, but you played with Andriel previously, the skill tree, the stats, and the items and the loot, they will all be there once you go back to them. But when you are playing with a character, the other two AI-controlled companions will have more advanced talents that they will use. For example, as a highlight, just as I said, the one that you can visually detect immediately is, for example, Andriel, when she's dual wielding, when she's using the staff and a sword, just like Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings movies. That's an advanced talent that I never unlocked, and you can see previous parts of the walkthrough that she's dual wielding all the time, except when I am using her. I think I used her last time when we did when I finished Mount Gundabad, so just so you have a reference. The 6th, the 7th stream, something like that. Part of the 7th part of a playthrough, something like that. All right. With all of that said, the technical aspect of the game, I was surprised by the attention to detail that was put into it, the graphical effects, the impact animations, the weight of the impact animations. So amazing, pretty well done. In terms of the execution and the polish, the combination of the 2D background images with the 3D images, that trick from the 7th and the 6th generation, perfectly executed. Extremely polished. I have no complaints about that. As I've said, just slight mistakes in terms of the artificial intelligence. Level design. And here is the huge hit, the huge flaw that this game has. Incredibly, it's not every day that I find a game that the main flaw isn't on the gameplay mechanics, also isn't on the technical part of the game. Mostly I had to apply mods to old school games and those. But the big flaw of this game is the level design. Not in terms of the relationship between the maps you play in when related to the gameplay, something that I've highlighted a lot of times when I did the final analysis of Havencast Rise of the Mage, precisely the developer responsible for the level design in that game, commented there, and precisely because I highlighted so many times how good the relationship between the level design and the gameplay mechanics was in that game, because you had no room to move, to cast the spells and those things. I'm not talking about that here. That's not the big flaw of this game. In terms of the level design, it pretty much doesn't matter a lot if it's narrow or big in this case, though I will say that it's a pretty positive aspect, the fact that there are some narrow corridors in some of the dungeons in this game. For example, I remember the undead dungeon, the second one that you play at the beginning of the game, that in a lot of the tombs you have no room to escape most of the time, and you will have no room to maneuver, and that could get you killed. That's also related to the explosive enemies that you could see in the Osgiliath challenge missions, and also the overall playthrough of the game. That the level design, those narrow corridors, affect your capability of maneuvering and escaping them. Imagine if there are explosive enemies, but it's an open field in which you can simply run. I simply hit RB and I run, or R1 in case you're using a PlayStation joystick, and you run and they never reach you. Imagine that. That could break the gameplay mechanics. Not in this case. Most of the dungeons are narrow passages. You won't have a lot of room to maneuver. You will be cornered, but being cornered in this game is not as devastating as in Hellgate London, as in Avencast Rise of the Mage, as in many other games. It's not a devastating blow to your overall economy in terms of the damage, in terms of the of being in control of the situation. Even more if you are playing as Faring, that you cannot be knocked down. If you play as the other characters, yes, you will be a bit more affected by the level design, because you will be knocked down most of the time. Precisely. See how the knockdown mechanic affects pretty much all of the aspects in this game. It's incredible how a mostly insignificant gameplay mechanic in most games, in this one it plays a vital role alongside the other one, the AI controlled companions. But yeah, no, the big flaw that I was referring to previously when I arrived at the level design category of the analysis is much more related to the replayability of the game. As I was mentioning, I need to find out, this is why we cannot know, I need to find out if the Osgiliath and the Lorien challenge missions are endless waves, or they are a fixed amount of waves. I will try to also search for it online. I think it was a fixed number, I remember reading. But anyways, if I haven't experienced it myself, I'll never be able to know. For example, I also saw online that this game didn't have a good ending, that one of the characters will inevitably die. Let's say, I don't want to do a spoiler alert, I don't want to do spoilers, but if you reach this part, pretty much I have to say it, because we'll get to the Grandeur category anyways, in which we analyze the story. And there is a good ending. You could see it. And online, the first result, if you search for the game ending, I got a bad ending, which happened to me 10 years ago. Is there a good ending? And for 10 years I thought there was no good ending. And there was. So, well, pretty much. What I'm criticizing about the level design is the replayability. And the big flaw of this game. It reminds me of Vanquish. As I've said, a third-person shooter developed by Platinum Games and Sega. Way too few dungeons, way too few, and they wanted to add replayability through the heroic and legendary difficulty modes and the challenge missions. Probably 99% of the people won't even see the challenge missions, because as I've said, they are exclusive to specific versions. They are not even DLC, and you cannot get the Steam version anymore. You kind of like have to look for the old school Steam key. So yes, pretty much the replayability of this game is what is in question. Not the gameplay mechanics at all. I love them. Not the technical aspect of it. Just like I criticized a lot of games in the past in previous analysis, the big flaw here is the level design. Precisely. That's why I consider this one the second most important category. There aren't a lot of dungeons. I don't know if they probably ran out of development time, of budget. The game didn't sell very well. They ran out of development time. 98% of the cases, it's like that. They ran out of development time, of budget. I don't know. They were acquired by precisely by Warner Bros. Right after this game. So yeah, it all leads to that conclusion. They ran out of development time, and I think all of those dots that you could see on the map, that they were eventually planned dungeons. If I had to guess, I'm guessing at this point, I don't know. But there were so many dots on the map, because of that, I am inclined, I I'm inclined to believe that uh, pretty much they ran out of development time, sadly. Fortunately, it's a happy ending because then they were acquired by Warner Bros. And they were allowed to develop The Lord of the Rings, Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, and Shadow of War, which sold much better, and they continued the legacy that this game started. But in the case of this game, uh, had it had uh, many more dungeons, it would have been an amazing game. A game of 10, probably. Because as I've said, the gameplay mechanics are solid, the technical aspect of it is amazing. It doesn't have that, that for me, personal, this is something extremely personal, but the stamina bar is disgusting because it makes the gameplay way too slow for my taste. It kind of like ignores uh, 20 plus years of game development to make combat a bit more faster, and the set targeting was not needed, as I said, in this game. Something personal. There are other people who think that, for example, the combat system with set targeting and stamina bars in Dark Souls, they are mandatory, that an RPG which doesn't have those is a pretty bad RPG, and that's a fallacy 90% of the time. But because of the fact that they haven't played older games, they believe that Dark Souls pretty much created everything, and that's not true. That's not true. You can create a perfect gameplay system with the stamina bar, without the stamina bar and the set targeting system. So yeah, pretty much I have thousands of examples. Bayonetta, the ones that I always comment. Darksiders 1 is another great example. The X-Men Origins Wolverine game from the movie, the PC version developed by Raven, is another great example. It's like playing God of War 3. Level design. So yeah, pretty much it's the big flaw. The game is way too short. They somehow tried, this is something valuable, they somehow tried to compensate that lack of length with replayability, but think that you have to play the same story 3 times to experience the game. 3 times. That we're talking about a level of repetitiveness which not all people can endure. In the case of us, seasoned players with, I don't know, 25, 30 plus years, we will be used to that with Diablo 2. Unfortunately, Diablo 4 is taking back is returning to the ideas of that school, and Diablo 3 also, with that repetitiveness, let's say, also Path of Exile, for example. But nowadays, modern cinematic games, they try to avoid repetition, and I can understand that a lot of people, for example, playing the same story 3 times without any kind of extra level design added to it, any special features, it can be repetitive. It can be repetitive, without a doubt. And if we had more dungeons, well, if the length of the game was bigger, well, it would be like Hellgate London, an extremely repetitive game, but with a lot of dungeons that I cannot even begin to count. Or for example, Diablo 2, not the base version, but with some mods. For example, it has a lot of variety in this game. It's kind of like the exact same situation, the exact same enemy spawns, at the very same spots, everything the same with the very same objectives. There's no objective variety. In Hellgate London, for example, there's a lot of objective variety, and the same kind of like the exact traditional formula of Diablo 2 unmodded, or like Diablo 1, I would even say. If you have the challenge missions, as you could see, I got killed in both of them. You will have some extra
some 2 extra dungeons, but anyways, it's way too low. The amount of dungeons is way too low, and that, you know, being repetitive, a game being repetitive is not a bad thing per se by itself if there's enough variety. If there's enough variety, repetitiveness is not a bad thing at all. Think about World of Warcraft, think about any MMORPG, think about any isometric action RPG, Diablo clones, I don't know, a lot of RPG games. Even the RTS genre that I love so much, even the RTS genre is a repetitive genre by itself, just like MOBAs. But if there's enough variety, it's pretty good. Think about Armies of Exigo, think about Dawn of War, think about Warcraft, precisely. Why Warcraft and Starcraft are so amazing, even if they belong to a repetitive genre that is inherently repetitive, that is very core and DNA is repetitive, the RTS genre. And I played a lot of RTS games, it's my favorite genre. Think about those, why StarCraft and Warcraft were so successful. Well, because that repetitiveness, first of all, it had a lot of gameplay quality, but also the repetitiveness was implemented in a huge variety of scenarios. The campaign in Warcraft 3 is bigger than 99% of any RTS games ever. Well, the same here. Because of the lack of development time, of budget, or whatever, the game is way too short. It's nice that they added 3 difficulties, 2 more difficulties, Heroic and Legendary, that somehow try to mitigate this alongside the challenge missions, but as I've said, they are found in specific versions of the game. Even if they try to mitigate it, the game is way too short. Way too short. We are talking about 6 hours, 8 hours, according to your playstyle, a bit more. 8 hours, 10 hours if you play it like I did, kind of like extremely slow, doing all of the side quests and everything. The side quests were a pretty good addition, but they are way too short. They are mostly collecting something. There's no objective variety. It's the huge flaw of this game, that is not longer and more varied in terms of objective variety, in terms of level of dungeons. It's a perfect game, you know, for what? For remastering. It would be the perfect candidate for remastering. For example, I think about what THQ did with Titan Quest, for example. Titan Quest was rather short. It was rather short. It was like Diablo 2, pretty much. Titan Quest. It's an old school isometric action RPG from 2006, 2007. THQ grabbed the original game and the expansion, which is basically Immortal Throne, which Hades, and they added the Ragnarok expansion, another expansion, another expansion. They added like 5 expansions. And if this game had the same treatment as Titan Quest, precisely by THQ, the same situation, in this case, it would... In this case, Warner Bros. Would need to do it because they have the Lord of the Rings license, I guess, but it probably will never happen because of the license of this game is the one from the movies from the Lord of the Rings. So it's a pretty expensive license just to add expansions. But if Warner Bros. Would like to, they should. It would be the same case as Titan Quest with THQ once Iron Lore gave them the license. With extra expansions, this game would be a perfect 10. The game would be a perfect 10, without a doubt. Because as I've said, the gameplay mechanics are there, they are solid, they're amazing. They would need to revive the servers. I don't know what they would love to do with it. But with those things, with extra expansions and extra dungeons, which they even have it inside of the game. I don't know if you realized, all of the locations with the dots, you can only read them. If instead of just reading them, you could access them and play, I don't know, as the Fellowship of the Ring or something else, like expansions like they do with MMORPGs, for example, think about Elder Scrolls or Online or something like that, the game would be a perfect 10. The level design, as I've said, is the one feature, besides the lack of efficiency at some points, something extremely scarce of the artificial intelligence. The level design is the one thing that makes this game not a perfect 10. As you can imagine, way too short. There's lack of content. It needs more, and more. More dungeons, basically. Grandeur. The Grandeur category of the analysis, I always love to get to this one because, while it's not the most important one, it's pretty interesting, and it tells you if the developer, in the case of licensed games like this one specifically, that's precisely why I have it here, it tells you the accuracy of the lore, the impact of the player, of the game, the impact of the ambience on the player, and everything from the sounds and the storyline. In the case of licensed games, the accuracy of the lore I include here. The accuracy of the lore in this game is amazing. Why? Because this game was released before the movies. This is something that I highlighted throughout the analysis. This game was released before the Hobbit trilogy, the second trilogy. It was released in 2011. By that time, the original trilogy of movies of the Lord of the Rings, had already been released, but The Hobbit wasn't released. And pay attention to this. In this game, there are thousands upon thousands of references to Smaug, to the Battle of the Five Armies, to the Hobbit trilogy in general. I mean, in the dialogue lines, as I've said, the facial expressions are amazing for a game developed in 2011. But the references, the accuracy of the lore, of the expanded universe of the Lord of the Rings, it's amazing. It's amazing in this game. There are a lot of references told to you by Bilbo or any other of all of the characters by the Fellowship of the Ring, and all of those, characters. The characters act cohesively and according to their personality in the movies. Pretty important. Think about modern games based on movies, for example, The Lord of the Rings, Gollum, or I don't know. They announced one at E3 right now. Well, E3 sadly is no longer celebrated for now. Let's hope it comes back. But The Lord of the Rings Return to Moria or something like that. And we need to see if the dwarves act according to their personality in that game, if Gollum acts according to its original personality from the books, reflected in the movies in those games. You get what I mean. That characters should act cohesively and according to their personality, even more when they are based on movies. It should also be the case for games that create their own universe. For example, I don't know, I remember in one of World of Warcraft expansions that the Lich King acted in a pretty stupid way, which wasn't the original way, or that Arthas behaved, and there are thousands of examples. Characters that at the beginning of a game, they act, for example, in a way, and there's no character development in between, and then by the end of the game, they act totally different. In that sense, precisely, I was playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of the Sky, as I was commenting, and Blue Rescue Team. The Mystery Dungeon series pretty much does a perfect job in character development in terms of the Grandeur category of the analysis. You'll see that your companion, it has a perfect development, and you can justify why it behaves like that at every point in the game. So perfect. In case you are watching for a perfectly developed storyline, any Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series, amazing. Also, the Pokemon Ranger series on the DS, they are both perfect examples of characters acting cohesively and according to their personalities and the character development in the game. But there are thousands of other examples. Well, in War in the North, the elves act like elves, the dwarves act like dwarves, the humans act like humans, The birds act like the eagles act like birds, pretty much like the big eagles from the movies. Every single character acts according to their personality perfectly. Perfectly. As I said, if there are two things that this game does right, which its successor, which is The Lord of the Rings, Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, and Shadow of War, don't do, are two things. One is related to the gameplay that I forgot, sorry, so we'll say it right now because it's related to this as well. The boss fights. This game does have epic boss fights, and in The Lord of the Rings, Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, and Shadow of War, the boss fights, they use the Nemesis system, which involves hunting, let's say, orc captains, and those, but it's not the same. You don't have epic boss fights. It's much more similar to Assassin's Creed. In that sense, Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor had an influence of Assassin's Creed, and this game doesn't have it. This game, the influence in this game uh, is much more prevalent or taken from Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance and Batman Arkham rather than Assassin's Creed. In Middle-earth, Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor, I played Shadow of Mordor 100% some 2-3 years ago, and the influence is from Assassin's Creed. It's kind of like open world. You can rebuild the map by climbing towers. It has the Nemesis system. That's something original from that game. It's an original system from that game, but it doesn't have epic boss fights. Even the final fight, even the final boss, let's say, there is no final boss actually. Basically, you can consider it. Yeah, it's. You could say it has one, but I wouldn't consider it a final boss. I wouldn't even consider it a final boss fight, a proper final boss fight. In that sense, this game is much more traditional. It has those epic boss fights, so kudos to Snowblind Studios, because here they kept their traditional essence and they included boss fights. Always an epic boss fight is something positive in my eyes when analyzing games, and I think most of us, pretty much 100% of the time. The second aspect that this game has, but its successor doesn't have, Shadow of Mordor doesn't have this. The accuracy and the expanded Lord of the Rings lore and universe that you can see in this game is not present in Shadow of Mordor. In Shadow of Mordor, they kind of like tell their own story, pretty well executed, but their own story without a lot of plot. There isn't a plot, pretty much. In that sense, it would be the weakest part of that game, the weakest aspect of that game. The lore and the world building in Shadow of Mordor. In this game, the world building, the lore accuracy, and the expanded universe of the Lord of the Rings, it's amazing. It's 100% accurate, it's amazing, and precisely this is the aspect that I wanted to get to. Since the Hobbit movie wasn't released by the time they developed this game, they had to read the books to develop this game with this degree of accuracy in terms of the lore. So yeah, I can confirm it 100%. They had to read the books, because when this game was released, the movies, the Hobbit trilogy wasn't released on theaters. It wasn't released. It wasn't a movie. There wasn't a movie trilogy of the Hobbit. They had to read the books, all of them, to incorporate this excellent and near perfect, I would say it's perfect, but let's say near perfect, accuracy of the lore. Yeah, it's perfect, pretty much. It's perfect. If you explore the dialogue lines, if you take the time to explore the dialogue lines like we did, you'll not only find side quests over at the three bases, Bree, Rivendell, and Nordinbad, but you also find a lot of references to Smaug, to the Battle of the Five Armies, to characters that fought There, for example, I don't know. I remember that, for example, I learned that Legolas was the one that kept Gollum right before, prior to the movies, right before the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring started, and it's all accurate lore. So for Lord of the Rings fans of the books or the movies, in that sense, the game does a perfect job, which is not replicated in any other Lord of the Rings game. I played The Conquest, I played Shadow of Mordor, I played the movies, the two games based on the movies, the Two Towers and and Return of the King. I played the Third Age, which is kind of like turn-based on the PS2. The Third Age, pretty. Then I realized that I didn't like turn-based games most of the time. So yes, pretty much. The accuracy of the lore is amazing, and pretty much the game, all of the characters act according to their personality. So perfect. I would say that it was perfectly executed. That aspect of the game. Was perfectly executed. Innovation. So yeah, pretty much the Grandeur category of the analysis, amazing. Innovation. Let's get to the final. Also, the voice dialogues are amazing. And the overall ambience and the score, the soundtrack of the game, pretty well executed. They were made by Anundor or something like that. Sorry, I don't remember the composer's name, but he was a famous composer, and he did a pretty good job on the score. It feels like you are in a Lord of the Rings movie, which at the end of the day is the ambience and what makes the heart of the Grandeur, the impact of the ambience on the player. So yeah, great soundtrack, great ambience, great plot, great dialogue lines. As you could see, the plot, I got the good ending. If you get the bad ending, it's pretty sad. So yeah, pretty much. I forgot, you can also use Belleran in terms of the gameplay mechanics, kind of like a panic button to balance it a bit more. You cannot use it on the challenge missions, pretty well executed. So yeah, pretty much everything is positive in terms of the soundtrack and everything. Extremely well done. Innovation, the last part of the analysis. The innovation, precisely the most difficult category to the most difficult category to take into account. Another thing before we get to that, the genre classification. This game is technically an RPG game. Basically the inheritor of Champions of Norath and Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. This game pretty much is an RPG game with hack and slash elements. But I would normally say that it's an RPG, but if I had to perfectly classify this game, I would say the hack and slash aspect of it is predominant in the core gameplay system, because you have light and heavy attacks, and when that happens, I personally would classify it as hack and slash with RPG elements. Because it's not too deep in terms of RPG. It doesn't have that deep RPG narrative and everything, like, for example, Mass Effect or those things. It does have choices, that's why it's a pretty tough choice. This could easily be considered, it could easily be classified as an RPG game. But I would still say it leans a bit more towards hack and slash. So because of how embedded the light and the heavy attacks are in the gameplay combat system, in the combat system of the game. So yes, pretty much. I would say it's a bit more hack and slash, but the RPG aspect of it, it's present there, and it's a perfect hybrid in that sense. So yeah, I would classify it as hack and slash. Why? Because its successor, Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, they kind of like reduce the RPG aspects of this game even more. So it's a tendency. And in this game, they are also reduced. So yeah, pretty much. I would classify it as hack and slash with RPG elements, just like I did with Darksiders 1. It's the same case as Darksiders 1. It leans much more towards hack and slash, action adventure, the action rather than the RPG aspect of it. But I could understand if anyone wanted to classify it as an RPG similar to a non-point and click RPG like Baldur's Gate or Diablo, because it follows the level design of an RPG. That's the thing. But the gameplay mechanics are much more similar to a hack and slash. That's the thing. Perfect combination. Innovation category. Let's get to the last category of the analysis and let's finish with the qualification. And next time, well, we'll see. We'll see next time what we do. I could also record offline the challenge missions. Innovation. The game, as I've said, inherits the artistic style of Dark Souls, only the artistic style of Dark Souls, combined with the lore of the Lord of the Rings. So there we have one influence here. In terms of the gameplay mechanics, as I've said, it combines the combo system from Batman Arkham Knight and Batman Arkham Asylum. Precisely, the first one was Asylum, with the classic non-point and click RPG elements of Baldur's Gate, Dark Alliance 1 and 2. So it's a perfect combination between hack and slash and an RPG, and you could even say beat 'em up if you don't want to call Batman Arkham Asylum hack and slash. For me, it's a hack and slash. A lot of people call them beat 'em up because you just use you use punches instead of weapons, but it's the same case. It's a hack and slash. It's in 3D. It also has the influence of elemental damage from Borderlands and Hellgate, though it uses different types. For example, the frozen damage that we couldn't explore, sadly. The level design of Diablo 2, pretty much. So we have, I think I counted 5 influences so far, or even more. It's a game that doesn't innovate a lot, but there's that one mechanic that I commented, which is precisely in the subtle balance between the usage of potions and the overall gameplay mechanics of the game. It's at that core gameplay mechanic that it has that innovation quote, let's say. The innovation is how the game balanced the usage of potions with the overall difficulty curve of the game, at least on heroic and legendary difficulties. As I've said, on normal difficulty, it's unbalanced, but I think it was done on purpose so everyone could at least finish the game once, to make it that easy. So we'll take into account heroic difficulty, at least. Taking into account that difficulty, the way this game balances the usage of the overall usage of potions and the overall difficulty of the game, it's a great innovation. It's a great revolutionary trait that it has, and I'm glad that they incorporated it. And pretty much it's the most innovative aspect that the game has. How it balanced the usage of potions. The graphical effects could also be considered as a part of the innovation because they are pretty amazing, and the overall accuracy of the lore, as I've said, it's something that we haven't seen, but I cannot incorporate it as an innovation, but it's what it should be if you're using the license. If you're using the license of a famous movie like the Lord of the Rings, famous world as Lord of the Rings. Pretty similar to what happened with Harry Potter Howard's Legacy, with Howard's Legacy. But well, pretty much, ladies and gentlemen, with all of these things considered, I think in terms of innovation, this game inherits a lot of things from other games, so it's not precisely an innovative game as well. Though, as I've said, if I had to highlight one aspect which is innovative, which is pretty well done, as I said, the balance between the usage of potions, the relationship with the knockdown mechanic of the enemies. How they balance that, I haven't seen it in a lot of games. So yeah, pretty much that's the one thing that makes the gameplay loop unique. The knockdown and how they solve also the artificial intelligence, pretty much, but there's nothing kind of like that I haven't seen in any other game. In Diablo 2 there are companions, in Hellgate there are summons. They are summons, the companions, the AI-controlled companions, at the end of the day, they're like the summons. They're just a bit better in terms of the artificial intelligence, but that's pretty much it. With all of that said, the Belleran mechanic, it's the other one that is unique to this game. So yeah, it has a second innovation mechanic, to be 100% fair. I want to be precise, as fair as I can be with this game. Like I do with all of them. The Belleran mechanic, it's also unique. I will also say that, I don't know, that yeah, some of the aspects of the fact that the classes are a bit blurry was unusual for this period of time, for the 7th generation, but well, pretty much those are the main aspects of it. It's a traditional game. Without a doubt, it's a traditional game in terms of the game. Except for the class system, it's a traditional game. You could argue that because of the fact that the class system, it's so blurred, the lines between them, the three classes are so blurred, that could be innovative for the 7th generation, but I can think of other cases. For example, in World of Warcraft, you could be either a DPS or a healer if you were a mage, for example. So yeah, pretty much, just so we have a common example that we all understand. Yeah, it's a traditional game at the end of the day, except for the cases, the specific mechanics that I highlighted. Final qualification for the Lord of the Rings War in the North. So we finish. I think I analyzed all of the aspects that the game had to offer. As I always say, be sure to check out the walkthroughs that I release of the game, in case you want to see all of these mechanics that I analyze at the end of the string of the series. That I analyze at the end of the series, kind of like doing a summary. You can see all of these gameplay mechanics in action throughout the 10 walkthroughs that I did. A lot of people like mixing gameplay images with the voiceover of the analysis, which I'm also thinking about doing over at the YouTube board. But pretty much, I'll see if I can do it this time, so you can also see images of the gameplay. But yeah, pretty much, pretty much the idea is that it's a traditional game, and the final qualification. Let's get to it. The final qualification for Lord of the Rings War in the North. As you can see, exploring everything the game had to offer. We left some side quests out, but pretty much it doesn't affect the core gameplay mechanics that we've analyzed. I will award this game, as I've said, it's a pretty huge hit, the level design, but the rest is pretty solid, so I will award it a perfect B. I'll award it a perfect B, not B+, not A, not S, nothing like that because of the level design, but it's a perfect B. If I had to translate it to a numeric qualification, it would be an 8. A perfect, exactly an 8. Not 7.5, not 8.5, a perfect 8. Because, as I've said, the gameplay is solid, everything is solid, but the game is simply way too short. One could even argue 7.5, but because of the fact that the core gameplay mechanic is so solid, I wouldn't say 7.5, but I would understand it. But yeah, basically an 8 because of the fact a perfect B because of how short the game is. Because of how short it is. It's the only reason I can think about. Because if this game had this been game longer, it would have been a perfect 10. It would have been a perfect 10 if this game had this game been had it been longer. It would have been a perfect 10 without a doubt. But the game is simply way too short. They try to mitigate it with the heroic and legendary difficulties, and that's exactly I uh, why I'm awarding it a B instead of a C plus, a 7.5, something like that. So yes, pretty much it's a perfect B with an 8 because, as I've said, everything is perfect, but the overall length of the game is way too short. It would be the perfect game with some expansions, but yeah, pretty much the core gameplay mechanics are solid, they are there, and you will enjoy it. I would recommend that you play this game at least once in your life. If you don't want to keep playing after it, after beating the main difficulty, it's perfectly understandable. That's what I did 10 years ago. Now I'm finishing it. So yeah, pretty much. Ladies and gentlemen, it was an exquisite analysis. Thanks from the bottom of my heart to anyone who may have taken the time to watch this as a Twitch VOD or as a Twitch VOD or a YouTube VOD. Any follower who may have taken the time to watch this as a Twitch VOD, or any subscriber of the YouTube channel who may have taken the time to watch this as a YouTube VOD. Thank you always from the bottom of my heart. Of course, thanks Scarlet Dragoon for visiting me again during the final analysis of the game. Always thank you from the bottom of my heart to each one of you. You are the ones who encourage me to continue showcasing all of these niche games, even when I stream alone a lot of days, certainly, without a doubt. Also, thanks to Keiichi, who was here during the final boss fight, and thanks overall to all of you, all of the followers of the Twitch channel and the YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it for today. I want to beat the Osgiliath and the Lorien challenge missions, but I'll have to do those offline. I'll record it and I'll add them on heroic difficulty precisely, but I'll need to level up, and for that I need to finish the Merc Wood and the Defense of Nordinbad again to level up a bit and see if I can beat it on heroic difficulty. I'll certainly upload it. But well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been my pleasure. We still need to continue with the preservation series, and the next game for analysis. And on the next game for analysis. The next game, it'll be pretty unique. It's also pretty short. We'll do some short games, then we'll get to a longer one that I have in store for all of you. So yeah, pretty much we have plenty of the preservation series with the reverse engineered MOBAs, with the preserved MOBAs. So yeah, we need to get to those, we need to get to the next analysis, and we have plenty of more games to analyze here. It was my pleasure sharing this afternoon with all of you, with the challenge missions and everything. So thanks from the bottom of my heart, and see you all in the next one. Have a great day. I hope I recover my throat, next time, because today I don't know how I did it, but I did the final analysis with my throat in a pretty terrible state. As I've said, I finished personally Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of the Sky, and Blue Rescue Team, and I'm also finishing Chapter 1 of The Witcher 1 Enhanced Edition. Pretty amazing games. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's been my pleasure. See you all next time. For now, I need to get to be hasty and get to my duties. And yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I need to get to my duties And yeah, I'm thinking about all the things that I need to do. I need to prepare. I need to prepare all of the exams for the English class and everything, and also the I need to do something with Python and those things. So pretty much I am busy. But well, we'll see each other on Thursday, and we'll continue the preservation series. Remember the enhanced artificial intelligence of Defense of the Ancients 2, and we need to showcase that pretty much. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, see you all next time. Hope you enjoyed the analysis of Lord of the Rings War in Earth. See you all on Thursday. Let's hope Twitch works on Thursday because I had issues starting the stream today.